Christina, she mentioned she is connected, so probably you should admit her as panelist.
Yes,
hello.
Yes.
It's Maria Cristina Russo.
Okay.
Maria Cristina Russo.
Yes.
Can I find her quickly? Thank you.
You should find her. She's mentioning she is connected, but she doesn't have access as panelist.
Yes, I'm going to promote her now. Yeah, perfect. You've been promoted.
Okay, good morning. Cristina Russo speaking.
Good morning, Christina.
Hi.
Morning, Christina.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, all. I think we're ready to start.
Morning, Vinny.
Good morning. Welcome to the Horizon Europe launch event webinar today. I'm Vinnie Pillay, and I'm from the Department of Science and Innovation and the South African Senior Science and Technology Representative to the EU. We have a very exciting program today, basically focusing on the Africa initiative of Horizon Europe, which is being launched. But also, I think to just say this event is jointly hosted by both the South African Department of Science and Innovation as well as the European Commission. And you would have seen in the recent months the importance of international cooperation, specifically around COVID, but we know how important it is for researchers across the globe to work together, to pool resources, to pool expertise, to address our global challenges, as well as to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So it is within this context as well that this program, the international cooperation, working together with researchers fits in. South Africa also has, and the European Union also have a strategic partnership. And of course, this is all within the context of the African Union, European Union partnership that also exists. And basically the objective of today's event is to give you some of the overview of the policy context, the kind of platforms that are available for cooperation. But the focus, of course, is talking about Horizon Europe, how we can, researchers both from Europe and from Africa and from South Africa specifically, can participate in this. And also this platform is available for you to ask questions. So just some housekeeping rules. You will see a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. This is where you can ask questions, and the panelists will be able to respond to these. As participants, you do not have access to the microphone and video at the moment, but that's okay. You can follow us also on Facebook as well as YouTube. So without spending too much time on this, I would like to hand over to the co-moderator of this event. Thanks.
Thanks, Vinny. Good morning, everyone. My name is Piero Venturi, and I'm the EU Science Counselor to the African Union. I'm located in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I'm very glad to be this morning with all of you. So we are going to open the session opening remarks where we will have the vision of our political masters about our research and innovation cooperation between South Africa and the European Union. So the program will include three distinguished speakers. We will have Director Maria Cristina Russo, Director for Research and Innovation, European Commission. Director Cristina will be followed by Mr. Raoul de Luthenberg, that is Chargé d'Affaires at the delegation of the European Union to South Africa. And then we will have Mr. Dan de Toit, that is the Deputy Director General of the Department of Science and Innovation of South Africa. So I'm very glad to give the floor to Director Russo. Please, Cristina, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here with you today, although virtually. And thanks for your very kind words. Thanks to the co-chair, Winnie, also for your introductory words. And also I would like to really warmly welcome all of you, all the participants to this important webinar. And my dear friends and colleagues with whom I will have the honor to do these addressing remarks, of course, Dan du Toit, who is the Deputy Director General, as you mentioned, in charge of research and innovation in South Africa, but especially Dan is the pillar with whom we are really working together to make EU-South Africa cooperation in research and innovation such a success story. And allow me also to thank Mr. Raoul de Luthenberg from the EU delegation in Addis Ababa, a dear colleague and friend, whom I'm very glad to see here with us today. And I'm sure that he will underline the importance of research and innovation cooperation within the overall context of the EU-South Africa relations. So, dear participants, this seminar aims to be very, very operational. What we would like to do is to present the opportunities that exist under the EU Research and Innovation Program, Horizon Europe, which has just been launched for enhancing the cooperation between the European Union and South African and African scientists and innovators on research and innovation. As Vinnie and Piero said, I would like to give the political context of those relations and also explain why they are so important for both of us. We have South Africa a long-standing cooperation in research and innovation. I will not go through all the details, but we have an agreement which a science and technology agreement, which was formalized in 1997, and it has been the basis for having an international cooperation in a moment where the Horizon Europe program, the research and innovation programs, were not still open to the participation of all scientists around the world. Now they are. This agreement is very important because it puts our cooperation with South Africa to a very important political level. The cooperation with South Africa is a key, not only in terms of bilateral cooperation, but also for the role that South Africa has had and continues to have within the African Union context. And in this respect, I would like to mention that last year, exactly 1 year ago, we had the ministerial meeting between the research and innovation ministers of the European Union and the African Union. It was the first ever ministerial meeting of research and innovation ministers between the two continents. It was a great success, and there it was also thanks to the then presidency of South Africa, of the African Union, that we were able to have this meeting so successfully. Now, why was this meeting a success? Not only because our ministers got together and underlined the importance of continuing a very fruitful cooperation in research and innovation, which has focused on key priorities such as food and nutrition, clean energy, innovation, global health, but also because with this ministerial meeting, we have paved the way for having in the next research and innovation program at time, Horizon Europe, which has just been approved, a specific call, transversal call, as you will hear later, a specific bunch of actions which really are designed to promote the EU-African cooperation on those fields of activities which are of mutual interest, on those fields of activities in which our scientists can get together, put their brains, their energy, their knowledge in order to advance on global challenges, such as the one that I mentioned, the food, nutrition and sustainable agriculture, the climate change and sustainable energy, the global health, the innovation. But also in doing that, they can really build concretely a stronger relations between the EU and Africa, and thus having a research and innovation as a building block of these overall relations between the two continents. I don't want to be long on the geopolitical issues, but you must be aware that in the European Union, we really attach great importance to a comprehensive and strategic cooperation with Africa. We have adopted in 2019, excuse me, a new communication, a new policy orientation for having this cooperation based on really a mutual ownership, shared endeavors, and creating together societies which are fairer, which are better, because they are also based on knowledge and on economic development. And there, our work in terms of research and innovation cooperation is very important. Before concluding my opening address, I would like to say that in the field of research and innovation, the European Commission has just adopted the political guidelines, a communication on a global approach to research and innovation, which sets up our strategic view for the future activities of international cooperation in research and innovation. And there again, the importance of South Africa as the key pillar driving this cooperation in all the African continent has been acknowledged. And this is also why what we would like to do today with this seminar is to promote as far as possible the concrete possibilities that exist in order to translate this political willingness, political objectives into reality. You will hear by my colleagues, so I will not be long, that the Horizon Europe program, which has just been adopted as a budget of 95.5 billion of euros, which is an enormous budget. It makes of Horizon Europe the world's largest program on research and innovation. And as I mentioned already, it will be open to researchers and innovators from all around the globe. The program has a duration of 7 years, and it is carried out to work programs with a biannual duration. We have just launched the work program for the years 2021 and 2022. This work program has a financial envelope of 14.7 billion euros, and it includes this very important Africa initiative, about which my colleagues will talk later, which includes 36 topics and mobilizes a budget of 350 million euros. But let me recall that African scientists are welcome to participate not only to the Africa Initiative, but to all the calls within Horizon Europe. And let me also highlight that it's certainly important, the budget that is available, but what is really more important is the fact that we have the means to work together, to put our scientists together. And I really wish that with this seminar, you will have enough information and you will really have the possibility to fully tap into the potential of these fantastic instruments that together we have put in place, including with our colleagues and friends from South Africa. With that, I would like to wish you a very, very fruitful discussion, and I would like to thank you for inviting me.
Thanks a lot, Director Russo, for your word. It's very, very good that you highlighted the successful history of our cooperation and why it's also so important at political level with this, as you define it, a bunch of actions to design our mutual cooperation. And thanks for your words. And now I would pass to the next speaker. I've been just informed that Mr. de Luthenberg cannot attend our meeting. So our EU delegation in South Africa will be represented by Mr. Agustin Bondozeani, that is the head of Economics and Infrastructure and Science Counselor to the EU delegation to South Africa. So, Agustin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Piero, and again, apologies on behalf of the ambassador and the deputy. I mean, we are struggling with a number of events, and they couldn't join here today. So I've been asked to say a few words, and I think first of all, of course, you know, welcoming all the participants, greeting Director Cristina Russo from the DG Research, of course, and Dan Dutoit that we all know in the Department of Science and Innovation. Thanks for having me. And I think my colleague Cristina Russo said that, you know, we know that research and innovation is a key ingredient and a very key milestone in the partnership that we have between South Africa and the EU. It's a special partnership, and I'll come back to that a bit later. She has also pointed out the role that Horizon Europe can play in deepening this relationship, and we will hear more about that, of course, throughout the day and the event that we are having today. Now, I think it's important to bring us back to why we collaborate on research and innovation. Of course, Cristina also mentioned this that innovation is key in the situation that we are seeing now. It's fundamental. It's a collective endeavor to respond to societal needs, to global challenges, and also, of course, we need research to actually respond to those challenges and those issues that we see every day. And research is there also to generate solutions for the everyday life of everyone. So, you know, as a delegation, we know that this is key and this is fundamental to our work, and of course to help us address some of the work that we do in fighting, you know, the combined health, climate emergency, the socio-economic crisis, etc. In South Africa, as I said, the role of research is important. And in South Africa, the EU is, and with its member states, we call ourselves Team Europe, we are very much involved in this relationship. And you can all know probably that in terms of bilateral cooperation in the country, 18 to 19 countries are actually having a specific bilateral agreement with South Africa. There is a lot of science and innovation exchanges, academic exchanges, peer-to-peer exchanges between university, research institutes, with South African institutions. And of course, it was mentioned before, the success of South Africa in the research and innovation from a program of the EU and in Horizon 2020. Of course, these all are interrelated. As the delegation, what we work towards is to really work in creating a knowledge society, a knowledge-based economy, a human and earth-centered future for South Africa. And then to achieve this, we need to really work on scaling up this cooperation. And we are working towards that as we speak. We're finalizing our program for the next 7 years, 2021 to 2027. And of course, we are aware of the importance of research and innovation as not only as a cross-cutting issue, but also as an entry point to our programming and activities and intervention. So, of course, very excited to be here for the launch of Horizon Europe and the wealth of opportunity that the Africa Initiative will bring to our work in South Africa. I thank you.
Thanks, Augustine, for your words acknowledging the relevance of research and innovation in our global cooperation. As you mentioned, innovation is the key to face global challenges all together. And now we pass to the last speaker in our opening remarks. So, the Deputy Director General Dan Dotois, you have the floor. Please, Dan.
Thank you very much, Piero, and good morning to everyone, to all the members of the South African science and innovation community, but very specifically also to our friends in Europe. And let me start by extending again the warm greetings to our dear friend and partner, Christina Russo, who is not only the institutional champion for collaboration between Africa and Europe, but is an enthusiastic champion for many, many years to make sure that whatever is put into policy documents and strategies are put into practice. And if we have today a thriving Africa-Europe science and innovation partnership, it is in no small part due to your leadership, Christina. And as always, we are most grateful also that you took time to be with us today. And I would like to greet my good friend Augustin and all the members of the EU delegation in Pretoria, who continue to be excellent partners of us in the Department of Science and Innovation. Now, Piero, when you started, you said we're going to start with the political masters. Now, first of all, when my colleagues presented this program to me, I said they should keep this short because the audience don't want to listen to boring bureaucrats like me. I mean, they want to hear about the real details, the exciting details of the framework program. But I thought I'll correct you. I'm no one's political master. I'm a public servant, very proud to be that. And that's why my colleagues are here. I mean, we are here to work for and support the South African science community and to allow them to make the most of these exciting opportunities. I fully understood what you meant. It's a bit tongue in the cheek, but I wanted to make that point. So very briefly, just to say 3 reasons why this event is so important for the South African government and specifically for the department I represent, the Department of Science and Innovation. Firstly, because science and innovation continues to be a strategic policy priority for South Africa. It's at the heart of South Africans will know our economic reconstruction and recovery plan, how we're going to respond to the negative economic impact of COVID-19. So we as a government is more determined than ever to respond through science and innovation to our socioeconomic challenges. But it's not only economic, it's also environmental, responding to climate change. And Horizon Europe provides us with an opportunity to work with a strategic partner such as Europe in that regard. We have followed with great concern, for example, and our best wishes to our friends in Belgium in the light of the terrible flooding, etc., which we know is a result of climate change. But we've also noted with much admiration the very important policy pronouncements, the ambitious policy pronouncements the European Commission just made about a renewed effort to build a more green and a sustainable economy. But science also has a soft power, has a unique power to bring country and to bring people together, which is very much part of the South African ethos, part of our value systems of solidarity. So first of all, for that reasons, it's about science and innovation being at the forefront of our policy agenda. But then secondly, as my colleague Vinnie had said, who I also want to acknowledge and to thank her for representing us so very capably in Brussels, is that throughout the ages, science always progresses through international cooperation. It's when we work together, when we share experience, when we share expertise, that science progresses. And Horizon Europe enables that. It also very crucially for us, it allows us to equip our next generation of young researchers, young scientists through international training, through international mobility, with the skills to progress their careers. I'm delighted to see, for example, that the Marie Skłodowska-Curie program features prominently on today's agenda. And of course, let's also be very honest, be frank, in economic challenging times, and we are very grateful that South Africa continues to benefit from funding support from the European Commission for our participation in Horizon Europe. And that is for us as the South African government an excellent opportunity to co-invest, and through our investment and through international partnerships seek to augment the overall investment in science and innovation in South Africa. And then the third reason is very much continues on what Augustin said. Europe is a strategic partner for South Africa. So this is an opportunity for us to further enhance this relationship. Europe is a major trading partner, a major investment partner, a major development cooperation partner, right at the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Later today, we'll hear from some of the projects, for example, for the European Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership. Europe has been a strategic partner for South Africa to respond to COVID-19. And then also very crucially, this is, when we speak about our strategic partnership with Europe, now in the world of diplomacy, these words can be very easily used, but in this case, it's real. Because what you see here today is a joint event. It's two partners taking joint responsibility and joint ownership of this collaboration. And that is very important for us. So that just very briefly why this event is so important. But I just want to conclude with a fourth reason. And I'm going to very specifically speak to the South African participants. Now, it would be completely surreal, inappropriate, for us to have this event without being cognizant and sensitive to the current situation in South Africa. And we all know this has been an extremely difficult week for our beautiful country. In addition to the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are confronting important political, economic, social, and other challenges. And it's very important for us that our engagement in science and innovation not be in isolation from the reality of South African society. We like to speak about science in society and science for society, and that's what it should be about. And this event today, for me and for us at the Department of Science and Innovation, really underpins, I think, three key values which are so important. And I should say that I saw in the chat, there are several colleagues from KwaZulu-Natal and other regions which are experiencing difficult times represented here today, and I would specifically like to greet them and extend to them our best wishes for their well-being. Because what is this event about? What's Horizon Europe about? It's all about collaboration, and you'll hear later today when the details of the programs are presented. You can't participate on your own. You need to work with others, and that value of cooperation is so important. But secondly, it's not an easy program as well. It's a competitive program. That should be said. But how do you respond to a difficult situation? You respond with determination. And having this event is very much symbolic of our determination to provide our community with all the resources and support services to be successful, because we believe that collaboration in science is inspirational. I mean, one of the reasons our first democratic government under President Mandela decided that science and innovation should be a priority for South Africa was not only because of the role in growing our economy and enhancing societal development, because it's inspirational. It paints a picture of the country we want to be and the country where we're working to be. So I thought it was very important to leave you with this message, which I hope is a message of confidence. I would really again like to thank our partners in Europe for the collaboration. I want to assure you of our continued commitment to this relationship. I want to really assure our South African science community that later today you will hear from my colleagues Tugela, Ntombi and others about the various support services we're going to provide you with to make a success of this collaboration, because we are convinced that through this partnership, through science collaboration, we can work together to create the kinder, the more sustainable world we all want to achieve. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And I look forward to listen now, not to boring people like me, but to the exciting opportunities on offer. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. You are not being boring at all. I really appreciate your inspiring words to push the South African scientists to get more and more involved in the European program. And also thanks for confirming the strength of our mutual cooperation, mentioning also the importance of our cooperation facing challenges like you mentioned COVID, then the flooding we have in these days in Europe, and the economic challenges we are all together facing. And I also like that you mentioned that we are at any level always a civil servants, and we never have to forget about this. Well, I think this is the time to finalize this first session, where we had the political background of our action, of what we will be doing, and an overview. And well, this paved the way to the next sessions on ongoing cooperation. That say, I'm happy to leave the floor to my co-moderator, Vinny, please. Go ahead.
Thanks, Vero. Of course, in reflecting what's taking place ahead and looking at Horizon Europe, it's perhaps also useful to just pause for a short while, and I call it a pause, so it's not a long session, but also to reflect on some of the successful collaboration that has already taken place, some of the ongoing cooperation from the South African perspective, but also looking at some of the policy framework within which this is framed, and I think which sets a broader scenario for your understanding in terms of how this all works as well. So with that, I'd like to hand over to the first speaker, Ms. Tugela Matubatuba, who's the Acting Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Department of Science and Innovation. Thanks.
Thank you very much to the moderators for the introduction. I'll try and share my slides. Please let me know if you can see them.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Tugela Matubatuba Dlamini. I am the Deputy Director responsible for strategic partnerships, as introduced, and I work for the Department of Science and Innovation. With your permission, I would like to switch off my video while I present so that I don't have any technical interruptions. I do that. Thank you. So I will be speaking more on the South Africa EU Science and Technology Cooperation. I think a lot of it has been already said in the opening section in terms of giving the political background. I will also touch on some of the instruments and support that the Department of Science and Innovation has put in place to try and create that enabling environment, as the DDG had explained, to enable the South African researchers and innovators to access these opportunities. And I'll also share some figures, statistics of past participation in the previous framework programs. I think a lot has been said also on this slide, which I won't spend a lot of time on, but I just wanted to highlight on the slide that since the signing of the SNT agreement, this has really facilitated South Africa's participation in the framework program. And we can already see that in the figures of participation in the framework program 6, framework program 7, and the previous Horizon 2020 program, which has just ended. And subsequent to that, there has been other agreements that have been signed, like the Trade Development and Cooperation Agreement, which is now also implemented through the South Africa EU Strategic Partnership Dialogue Facility. And all these agreements actually monitored by different bodies, such as the South Africa EU Summit, which is chaired at presidential level, the Joint Cooperation Committee, which is led by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation in South Africa and its counterpart, as well as the Joint Science and Technology Cooperation Committee, which is led by the DG of Department of Science and Innovation and the DG of Directorate Research and Innovation in the European Commission. So just in summary, without repeating what was said in the introduction, it's really important to have the alignment on a policy level so that there is appropriate support instruments that can be developed in order to support participation in this cooperation. Reflecting on the science and technology cooperation within the South African EU context, the department has really seen a lot of success because on a bilateral level, there has been some cooperation between South Africa and the individual European states. And the department has also taken it upon itself to ensure that there is proper understanding of these EU programs, such as the framework program. And that has enabled us to create these support instruments, which my colleague and Ntombi Mchuba will actually elaborate more on in her presentation, what type of instruments we are talking about. And these include, the seed fundings and the co-investments that the department has put in place in the previous years. We've also seen in the cooperation that there's a lot of reciprocity in terms of participating because there's mutual interest and mutual benefit that comes out from the cooperation. We've also seen that there's been an increased awareness of these EU competitive funding programs, and there's a lot of networks that have been created. And as a result, that is a success that comes from these programs, the creation of these networks. And there's also a need for the strong science and technology policy dialogue between South Africa and the EU. And I had mentioned in my first slide, the different policy bodies that monitor this cooperation. Looking at past participation in the framework program, you'll also see that there has been quite a success also in the continent. If we look at South Africa, for example, the countries have received approximately 37 million euros from the European Commission for participating in Framework Program 7. And then we could also see the other countries that have also benefited. And it's our wish that every country in the continent manages to also access these opportunities in the future. If we look at Horizon 2020, which just ended, we'll see that there's about 56 million euros that's come to South Africa in terms of the contribution that comes from the European Commission, and also approximately 212 signed agreements in total, which is quite impressive when you also compare it to the Framework Program 7. We also see in this slide the different thematic areas that are prominent in the Framework Program. For example, if you look at South Africa, you'll see that there's some participation in the food thematic area, environment thematic area. There's also participation in the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, which I'm quite pleased that it will be also presented in more detail later in the program. It's also quite important to see that there has been some co-investment also from the countries. As you can see, South Africa has also been putting some of its funding to support participation from South African innovators and researchers. And on this slide also, you can see over the years which thematic areas have received funding. And as you can see, the Marie Curie also coming up there, the food and nutrition also coming up there. So this shows us which thematic areas actually are prominent or tend to be the key cooperation areas between South African researchers as well as the other researchers in Europe and in the overall in the framework program. I think I will end there with my presentation. These are just some of the websites that you can visit if you want more information. And in that regard, thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks so much, Tugela. And I think the key points, as Tugela has mentioned, is that this is not a new collaboration. You've seen those messages that have come up from the opening and carries on here, but here you can actually see what the types of projects, the areas in which we are working together, the type of platforms that are available to support the South African researchers. So although Horizon Europe and Horizon 2020 is a European Union program, there's a lot of support that we, through the Department of Science and Innovation, also provides to South African participation. And I think that's important as well. We've had success, and we hope we will continue to have success in Horizon Europe. I would now like to hand over to our next speaker, Mr. Augustine Bondosiani. You've heard him speak before, but over to you, Augustine.
Thanks a lot, Vinny. I hope you can hear me again. And sorry for being here twice, but I mean it's the situation of the moment. Apologies for that. Yes, you mentioned it. It's a long-standing cooperation for more than 25 years, and it's very important. We have all heard that before, but I think it's very unique, and it's important to come back. My angle will bring a bit of what we do at the delegation level, and how much we add on all this cooperation that comes through the framework program. First of all, of course, I wanted to thank and to congratulate the department of all the work that has been done, and we have seen some of the numbers. But I'm going to tell you a bit more to show you exactly how far this can go, including in our bilateral cooperation. So, as I was saying, maybe from my side, 3 key elements to bring this back to our bilateral partnership, which we usually call a unique friendship, actually, in our own language. It's distinctive, and I mean, from many angles. Let me tell you 3 of them. The first one is that South Africa is the only country in sub-Saharan Africa which actually has a cooperation agreement with the EU, which shows how far it goes. The second is that among the more than 140 countries which we have bilateral cooperation with, South Africa is among the few that has science and innovation as one of the priority areas of the cooperation. Okay, and then lastly, what is important, and even more so, it's about the money, and it also shows how far and how deep the collaboration and the cooperation is South Africa is one of the few countries where this bilateral cooperation actually is delivered through what we call budget support. Budget support is trust that is given to the government to actually implement the money that we are providing. And in the country, we've been doing that for the past more than 15. I mean, it's more than 12 years actually, and then probably it's going to go beyond 12 years with the ongoing program. We did it twice. The first time was with a program that was called Innovation for Poverty Alleviation, and currently we have an ongoing program, a bilateral program to support the national systems of innovation. This is around 800 million rands that is being provided on top of what we have heard so far. This is around 46 million euros. The ongoing program is very important too, to an extent that we want to support the connection between business and research, or bring it close to market, if you want. We want to support new actors that are not necessarily, you know, the usual suspect, if you allow me these terms, that you see in this program. We want to bring women on board, youth on board, etc. And we are very happy to support that. And of course, the program helps build on what is ongoing on overall cooperation, you know, building on the program participation, building on the trial, clinical trial programs, and all the other programs that you have heard before. The second element is that, and I really want to insist, is the partnership is built on very strong dialogue. You have seen this morning. We know each other very well. We work together very strongly, and we have different forums where we usually meet. Together, I mentioned one before, the joint Science and Technology Cooperation Committee Council, which has meeting. But we also exchange knowledge and align position through a number of different frameworks. And if I give you some examples of very recent structured dialogue, we have had dialogues on 4IR, Fourth Industrial Revolution. We have had dialogues on circular economy, bioeconomy, on investing in disruptive technology, tech entrepreneurs, open data. I mean, I can cite a number of them, but in the interest of time, it's just to illustrate. And the last point, maybe that is a key to us, is that we want to have a transformative partnership. We want to build on the transformative potential of research and innovation. You've heard that before, but I really want to pass this message. This is very key, and this is what we are working for. We want to leverage on the different research and innovation initiatives, embed and leverage and push them with our bilateral program. And as I said earlier in my previous intervention, we are now working in the programming of our next cooperation and bilateral program. Of course, we will continue to have this research and innovation, being at the center stage of our work. We want it to continue to be distinctive, as I said, to be based on dialogue and exchanges, as I also said, to be transformative by integrating research as a cross-cutting dimension of our work. And that's what we are looking forward to do. And of course, maximizing the use and the potential of Horizon Europe and the work that it will generate. I'll stop here, and I thank you again for your patience with me today, and looking forward to the discussions. Thanks.
Thanks, Augustine. No, we must thank you for being available. Of course, your inputs are valuable, as you are also one of those people that is close to home, on the ground, operationalizing all of this cooperation at the EU delegation, and we appreciate it, as our DDG said earlier. And I think what's important is that this is it's a holistic. It's not just looking at pure research, it's also bringing the innovation elements. And I think the economic, or the path to economic recovery for South Africa, and inclusion of women and youth and job creations, and looking at innovation as an important element, is very useful in this partnership, and very important as well. I see Ninka has joined us. So welcome, Ninka. You are our next speaker. So I will hand over to Ms. Ninka Baseman, who's the head of unit at DG Research and Innovation, and responsible for international cooperation. Over to you, Ninka.
Many thanks, Vinnie, and good morning to everyone. Very happy to be with you in this important seminar. Yes, so with South Africa, and the cooperation in research and innovation is very strong at the bilateral, multilateral, and regional level. And I think you have heard many speakers already this morning, including my director, Russo. So I would just like to perhaps give you some examples of our cooperation that has lasted since many years already in these three fields. So in the bilateral, multilateral, and in the regional level. So first of all, at the bilateral level, we signed the S&T agreement in '97, which for us signifies one of the most successful and long-standing international cooperation agreements on research and innovation. Under the previous research and innovation program, Horizon 2020, the success rate of collaborative projects, which included researchers from South Africa, was very high, 23.7%, which is actually significantly higher than the program average of other non-EU countries. The average is about 17%. And South Africa, or South African researchers, is also the second most successful non-EU country in terms of funding provided to participants in Horizon 2020. And the next program, the new EU R&I program, Horizon Europe, does not foresee any changes to the status of participants, researchers, innovators from South Africa in terms of participating in the program. participants from South Africa remain eligible for funding. And we therefore encourage all of you to continue this, what we see as a success story. Of course, I'm also happy to be speaking after Augustin, because I wanted to say that close synergies exist between the different EU programs, especially in the field of collaboration in research and innovation, to really make sure that the investment in research and innovation has an impact on socio-economic development and contributes to the competitiveness and the transformation of the South African economy. So, for example, the sector budget support program improves or supports improving the national system of innovation in South Africa. And hereby we're also building on the results of the collaborative research projects that we are jointly funding, including through the Horizon program. And secondly, at the multilateral level, South Africa, for example, hosts the African Department of the European and Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership, which is the world's largest RNI public partnership on infectious diseases. South Africa is also involved in the joint programming initiative on water challenges for a changing world. And Eureka, for example, the world's biggest public network for international cooperation in R&D and innovation, with 45 countries as partners in that. But we have other examples, of course, the famous square kilometer array that brings together many countries around the world, or the All Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, and or again the Group of Observation. These are just a few to name. We are very much involved, South Africa, with the EU in several of these multilateral RNI platforms, cooperation initiatives. And thirdly, I would like to mention the regional level. The EU, European Union, African Union cooperation in research and innovation at the regional level is also very strong and has been running since 2010 through what we call the high-level policy dialogue on science, technology, and innovation. And South Africa has and is playing a decisive role in this dialogue. For example, last year we organized the first ever EU-AU RNI ministerial meeting during the chairmanship of South Africa of the African Union. And in this ministerial meeting, ministers on both sides really agreed on a set of joint priorities for future cooperation in research and innovation, which are four, and not surprising probably to anyone here today. But let me mention them if you haven't already heard these. It's public health, green transition, innovation and technology, and capacities for science. And the Horizon Europe program, and especially the Africa initiative that you will be learning everything about today, is really an immediate result of the decisions we took jointly at this ministerial meeting last year. So let me also finalize with some thoughts about for the future. The collaboration both at the bilateral level with South Africa, but also at a regional level with the African Union, has focused very much on research, on collaborative research. And as I said before, it's extremely important that we use the research results, that we make sure that the investment in research has an impact on the economy. So we are all very much in agreement that we need to move the cooperation more in the direction, or also in the direction of innovation. And that's what we're looking into now since a while, and since we had this ministerial meeting last year. How can we do that? We're mapping some of the research results we have. We're looking at what is happening already and building on this analysis and the gaps that may exist in the cooperation. We are at the moment jointly developing an EU-AU innovation agenda, building on the long-standing cooperation in research and the RNI partnerships that we have set up, of which, for example, the EDCTP example is one, but there are many others. And this agenda, with this agenda, we really, as I said, aim to translate the RNI efforts into positive impact on the ground, to create businesses and innovative solutions in a more strategic and coherent way. And as we are preparing it, we really very much hope that this agenda can be part of the larger investment package that may be on the table at the summit next year. And finally, we also, of course, need to look really well ahead. So not just the next couple of years, but where is our cooperation bringing us, or what do we need to focus on in 10 years, 15, 20 years time? And for that, we have set up a high-level expert group from both the EU and Africa. We call it the EU-Africa Advisory Group on Research and Innovation. That is really looking at this more longer-term perspective. What should we focus on in the cooperation in the long term? We're expecting the results this autumn. They're writing policy papers once again in the fields of the priorities identified in the ministerial meeting, but really much more long term. So we're very much looking forward to seeing these papers as well in autumn this year. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Vinnie. Thank you very much to all of you for being here today.
Thank you, Ninka. I think that was a useful overview to just look at the multi-dimensional type of partnership South Africa and the EU has, but also broader within the regional and continental perspective, and how the ministerial has influenced the elements of Horizon Europe and the Africa Initiative. And I know that's the focus of this event. So I am going to hand over again now to Piru to moderate the next segment. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Vinnie. Well, it's always important to remember the importance, the relevance of our research and innovation program. And I like to mention that some studies demonstrated that for any euro that is allocated to research and innovation, our society is gaining 11 euros. So more than 10 times to the society what we allocated to research and innovation budget. So, well, now we enter, well, we say that the devil is into details. So we really enter into the details of Horizon Europe. And I'm very glad to invite my friend and colleague, Jens Ögel, to give his presentation. Jens is a policy officer at the DG Research and Innovation, European Commission. Jens, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Piero, and good morning to all. I see an impressive number of participants in this meeting, so I'm very, very happy with the outcome so far. And let me give you and try and give you some information about the upcoming Africa Initiative and Horizon Europe. A few general remarks. I think I can spare a lot of things because the previous speakers have already referred to the usefulness of research and innovation for our societies. Dan has mentioned that determination is one of the decisive factors in moving societies forward and moving our activities to a level where everyone can benefit from these. So I don't need to talk about this. I also prepared a few slides, thanks also to my colleagues within our unit. We prepared a few slides on the participation of South Africa in Horizon 2020 and FP7. And I'm not spending too much time on this because I know that Tugela has already referred to this. So these are in principle the same data. On this slide, what you can see, however, is that the when you compare Horizon 2020 participation and FP7, or with FP7 participation of South African entities and individual researchers, you can see in the first two parts the number of participations and the grants. You can see a slight downward trend, but I think this is mostly explained by the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, which have not benefited from too many applicants from South Africa compared to FP7. So this might be interesting for you to look at. Same this slide, and then this is a summary that Tugela has also referred to. We can see what are the main areas where South African participants and researchers have cooperated with European and many other researchers from around the world. And we see, of course, health, that was already mentioned, EDCTP, certainly to some extent as well. Food and nutrition security, sustainable agriculture might also be included in here, the environment, and some of the other areas. So these are the main subjects. They could remain like this. We might see changes depending on the development of our program and also the development on the South African side in terms of the interests that are there in the various areas. Here again, summary, and also what my boss Nienke Boesman referred to, the more than average success rate of South African participants in Horizon 2020. We can see that on the left-hand graphic, where you can see the average participation of all countries is the violet line, and well, in many of these areas, South African participants are more than the average successful in participating in the program. So that is a good sign, but it doesn't mean that this is already the end of the story. We can we can do together more, and we can increase even more the participation of yourself and your entities in the framework programs. So let me not spend too much time on these areas, because I think what you are certainly more interested in is what is going to happen under Horizon Europe, and in particular the Africa initiative. This is what I will be talking about in the next couple of minutes. Just to give you again this general idea about what is the volume of Horizon Europe, or of the budget of Horizon Europe, which is close to almost 100 billion euros, which are spent within the next 7 years. And of course, the global challenges and European industrial competitiveness part is the largest part of the program, followed by the excellent science, or the European Research Council and other initiatives. Then we have Innovative Europe and the widening part, and European research area. Just also to give you a bit more idea about what is the structure of the program, and I will certainly focus mostly on Pillar 2, that is what I already said, called Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness, with the various clusters that are already known from previous research framework programs, like health, culture, creativity, civil security for society, climate, energy, mobility, digital, of course, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment, and so on and so forth. So in principle, this is what we will be talking about in the next slides. But I would also remind you that we have additional cooperation opportunities coming up in September, October, with the launch of the partnerships, the Horizon Europe partnerships and the Horizon Europe missions. But this is not the subject of today's meeting. So why do we do international cooperation? Well, I think that was mentioned already.
or no, I should say, how do we do this? We do this basically on two principles. That first of all, we have a general openness of Horizon Europe, like we had in previous framework programs, that all researchers around the globe can apply for funding, of course. Not everyone, I have to say, is eligible for funding, but that doesn't apply to South Africa. Likewise, researchers and innovators of any nationality can apply for grants. So this is not only the largest framework program that is available worldwide in terms of research and innovation cooperation, but it is also the one that is the most open for international cooperation. As we will be talking about the Africa Initiative, of course, all the other topics that are launched with the work program or in the work program 21-22 of Horizon Europe are open to international cooperation, or most of them, I should say. Some are slightly restricted, but you will see this when you scroll through the program. We have also in the program a targeted international cooperation actions, and this is for example, the Africa Initiative. Some of the actions that are launched in the work program Horizon Europe are flagged as being specifically relevant for international cooperation, and we have also some targeted actions with key partners in strategic thematic areas. But let me really focus on the Africa Initiative. We have, as Ninga was saying, we have gotten the inspiration for the Africa Initiative in principle from the ministerial meeting that took place in July 2020. That was looking at that was launched and organized due to the onset of the COVID crisis and the, of course, socioeconomic impacts the crisis was expected to have, and we really had at the world stage in principle, but also at all the different regions, and that includes, of course, Europe and Africa as well. And in this meeting, there was a decision taken, or there was an agreement, I should say, that our future cooperation should mainly focus at global public health, socioeconomic development, and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of topics that are included under the Africa Initiative was already mentioned. We have about 36 topics with a budget of 350 million euros. And referring to the ministerial, we have topics in the area of public health, in the area of green transition, which includes food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture, but also research on biodiversity in the environment, on transport, and some other issues. We have roughly, well, not roughly, but we have a number of topics in the area of innovation and technology, specifically looking at improving and increasing cooperation in those areas. And we have quite a number of topics under the fourth chapter, the capacities for science, which combines a number of areas. We'll talk about this. And in case you want to find the topics that I will talk about, you can use the link that will be sent, I think, by my colleagues through the chat during the meeting today to the EU funding and tenders portal, in case the link here on this slide is not going to work, or the slides will be distributed at a later stage. So we'll try to take care of this as well. Now, talking about public health. You'll see, and please don't be disappointed about that, there will be only one topic, or there is only one topic on public health, addressing the innovative approaches to enhance poverty-related diseases research in sub-Saharan Africa. It is quite a large topic in which we are expecting a number of projects to be financed. So there will not only be one project, but a number of projects for a maximum budget of 40 million euros that will be financed. And this topic is, of course, in addition to the upcoming EDCTP 3 partnership that is currently under negotiation with our Council, European Council and the Parliament. And we expect that these negotiations will be finalized by the end of the year, so that the first calls for proposals can be launched in early 22. And we are really very hopeful that this very successful cooperation will continue. Also to say that I think the EDCTP has already achieved quite a number of good results. Thinking about possible vaccine candidates for malaria, for tuberculosis, thinking about the allowing countries and training participants in carrying out clinical trials, which is a precondition for each country in principle to market and commercialize their own or other products coming from outside in terms of approval procedures and so on. So I think the EDCTP is a very good example of a successful cooperation. And by the way, I forgot to say that the current EDCTP will be kind of promoted, if you like, to a public-private partnership, which means that in addition to the public entities and the member states on the European and the African side, there can also be other participants can join this initiative. I'm thinking about certain foundations, private entities that could join, and of course they are expected, and we hope that we will succeed in creating additional financial contributions from those partners in the range of 400 million euros, bringing up the total for the EDCTP to 1.2 billion euros for the next couple of years. So that was the health area. We have the second area, green transition, and that is divided into a couple of areas, 6 in principle. And I spoke already about food security, sustainable agriculture, the first 2 areas, biodiversity, mobility or transport, if you like. Of course, climate change, which is important, and sustainable energy. There we will have topics that could be of interest for you. Starting with the kind of climate change and energy challenges that we are all facing. We have 4 topics in 21 and 22 that are going to be launched. I should not forget to say that there is already the large LEAP-RE project that was launched in early on this year, where we have more than 80 participants from Europe and South Africa, from Africa, that participate in this very large project, and they have also launched and will, I think, launch another set of calls for proposals in the area of renewable energies. So a LEAP-RE, if you're not aware of this project, you should probably try and Google that, or probably we can also add a link in the chat. We have, of course, some coordination and support actions in the program, talking about the water, energy, and food nexus and energy system modeling that are of importance, and that would again hopefully also contribute to working together at multilateral level. So this was the energy part. Now talking about mobility, we have 3 topics here. Probably the most important one for many African countries is not so much related to global challenges, but it's more regional challenge in terms of the road safety in low and medium income countries in Africa. That with this research project we would like to contribute to improving road safety, of course. And then we have the other 2 topics, the one on new generation of full electric urban and peri-urban bus rapid transit systems, in order to address climate change and to provide climate-friendly mass transport solutions. And then, of course, stimulating road transport research and innovation dissemination and implementation in Europe and around the world. Again, that's a CSA, but those CSAs could certainly contribute to shaping also the future of cooperation in such areas. Coming to the food and nutrition security part, we have 6 topics. The first one is certainly also very important, the One Health approach to food, nutrition security and sustainable agriculture that is launched already this year. So the call is open. Again, the budget of 18 million euros is supposed to be divided in 2 or more projects. We are following up with this project on the successful cooperation under the Food and Nutrition Security and Sustainable Agriculture Partnership, which is part of our high-level policy dialogue. So to make the link between previous projects and what can be done in future. We have the next topic, the agroecological approaches in African agriculture systems. This is the one that will be launched early next year. Again, a larger budget, but again, also for more than just one project. Then, of course, we have other topics combating all forms of malnutrition, African food cities, expertise and training center on rural innovation and socioeconomic empowerment of the users of the sea. Also in support, some of these also in support of our more larger initiatives like the All Atlantic Research Community. Then we have under the green transition, and now we are coming a little bit to the part on climate change, where we will look into the kind of biomass ecosystems, how to trade and process biomass, and how to improve biodiversity conservation along supply chains. Again, an important topic, I think, looking at the recent events with a budget of 10 million euros, probably also for more than just one project. The understanding the impacts of and the opportunities offered by digital transformation. So trying to integrate digital transformation into areas like climate change, but also into areas like they could be integrated into agriculture, which has happened in the past. But this is again an example of working across thematic areas. Support to processes triggered by IPBES and IPCC, of course. Then we will call for a Network for Nature, multi-stakeholder dialogue platform. Then that might also be interesting for South Africa and other raw material rich countries, assessing the nexus of extraction, production, consumption, trade, and behavior patterns, and of climate change action on biodiversity in the context of transformative change. The impacts, understanding the impacts of and the opportunities offered by digital transformation. Again, digital here in the focus. In the next topic, we will promote the cooperation with the Convention on Biological Diversity, and of course, again, talking about biodiversity, exploring the connection between biodiversity, ecosystem services, pandemics, and epidemic risks. Now, coming to the innovation and technology area. With the 3 topics I was talking about earlier, we have, I would first refer to the topics 2 and 3. So building EU-Africa partnerships on sustainable raw material value chains. I think I was mistaken in the previous slide. So this is the slide, this is the topic I was talking about, raw materials. In the previous slide, this is where African partnerships and African participation is very much required, obviously, for a simple reason that Africa, as I said, is a raw material rich continent, And of course, we want to support the flowering of the growth of this area in a sustainable way, of course. Strengthen the bilateral cooperation on research infrastructures with Africa. So this is referring to climate change, but again, it's a multilateral cooperation that is targeted there. And then lastly, I think that is important also for the future. We want to launch a topic, or we have launched a topic on the InnoWhite that is called the InnoWhite Bridging Facility. That is a continuation of the coordination and support action under Horizon 2020, where this InnoWhite call for proposals was launched in 2019 and 2020. The budget at that time was a bit larger, and it was supposed to facilitate the internationalization of European Union small and medium-sized enterprises, to put it broadly. Now, with this InnoWhite Bridging Facility, we are making one distinct difference, and that refers to the fact that what we want to do is we want to allow also in this particular context of the Africa Initiative that African SMEs could also be integrated in these calls, and they could also be allowed to use the opportunity to understand the markets in Europe, to try and transfer their knowledge and their innovative ideas to European markets with the help, of course, of a European partner. This is the principle of the InnoWhite instrument, that two small and medium-sized enterprises join in partnership to work together and to allow one of the partners to bring in the technology that could be used in the destination market, while also this cooperation and partnership could also then in the second step, based on the interests of the partners, of course, be reversed in the way that the second partner could then also use the partnership for transferring its know-how and innovation capacities to the other markets. So in this case, we are targeting European and African small and medium-sized enterprises, and we are very much looking forward to the outcome of this topic. But also, this needs to be seen as one of the I wouldn't like to call it pillar, but one of the important elements of the innovation agenda that we are currently aiming to elaborate together with the African Union Commission and with our African partners, of course. So that is a little bit the context for this InnoWhite Bridging Facility. It is a small budget, but it could have far-reaching consequences, and we're hoping for that, of course. So then the last section covers the capacities for science. And there we have 11 topics, as you can see. There's an equal distribution across the work programs 21 and 22. I think I'll leave it up to you to check the various programs, the various topics, to see whether this is in any way interesting for you. I would always imagine that there are many opportunities in those 11 topics for South African researchers. And I think it is a good sign that we are not only talking about one particular area or section of research and innovation where there is a cooperation, but the cooperation between the EU and Africa is really on a very broad basis. The examples of previous successful partnerships, EDCTP was already mentioned, and I think I'll elaborate it sufficiently on that part, and I hope the EDCTP will be able to continue. Also increasing the numbers of African countries joining the partnership, and of course European countries, not only African countries, and preparing the continent not only in being able producing its own commodities in this regard, but also preparing for a more forward-looking approach that we should all probably have, thinking about COVID, in terms of preparedness of the continent for future events or pandemics in the worst case. Then we have in the area of the green transition, coming to this area, we have, of course, the Food and Nutrition Security and Sustainable Agriculture Partnership. 381 million euros were channeled into this partnership on 4 priorities. You can read them yourself. What is interesting in this context is, and that is what was said before, we are currently looking at, or we are piloting a mapping exercise that would allow us to identify those projects that have either already finished or that are in their final stages of implementation, and that have already achieved results that would be useful for continuing the collaboration on a different or in a different scale, let's put it that way. And this is again one of the subjects we want to cover with our bilateral innovation agenda that is currently under consideration, namely to move forward research projects beyond the lifetime, beyond the funding period that has been granted by under Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe. And we want to see what can we do, or what can these projects do for society at large and for sustainable economic development. The same goes a little bit with regard to the Climate Change and Sustainable Energy Partnership. However, this partnership is not as mature as the first one. And the investments, although there is a mention of 84 million euros, by the time we are speaking today, these investments have increased to something like 126 million euros, I think. So quite an additional amount of budget that was provided. And well, what can I say? I mean, this is for the future. This is a very, very important partnership, and we hope we can increase its efforts. It has already had good meetings with experts from Africa and from the EU, aiming to shape really the partnership and to give it not only a good standing, but also a forward-looking approach that I mentioned earlier, and to see what else can be done and what needs to be done by research and innovation to help addressing climate change and the availability of sustainable energy. Of course, and that was also mentioned before by previous speakers, the other direction that we are taking, and this is also part to some extent of the innovation agenda. The other direction is that we are trying to work in more, or to work more in synergies with other EU programs. That could be, for example, and this is for a very good reason, also the neighborhood development and international cooperation instrument, the NDICI. It's much easier to pronounce. So we are trying to seek synergies between the two programs, the Research and Innovation Program and this Development Cooperation Program, in order to also move research and innovation higher on the agenda of development cooperation. As Piero was saying, €1 spent on research and innovation will create 11 euros in return. And that is, I think, a strong argument to use also development cooperation funding for research and innovation. And I think we are on a good way. But that is something that will be developed in the future. First steps have been taken, so we are very optimistic we can close ranks. And we should not forget, apart from the 1 and 11 euros equation, that without research and innovation, Richard Branson wouldn't have managed to fly into the space. And we as Europeans would not be at the same development stage that we are today without research and innovation. So a very simple, I think, fact of life. Other synergies we are seeking, or additional synergies we are seeking, is with the African Research Initiative for Scientific Excellence, the ARISE program. Again, there is a link here on this slide where you can access the program. I think the call for proposals should already be open. If not, it will be open very soon. We have the Acp Innovation Fund. Actually, well, it is called Acp Innovation Fund, but it is for all African countries to apply to this fund, also for assessing or having an assessment done by a group of experts in terms of their research and innovation policy and what are the strengths and weaknesses. So that is something that is not necessarily related to research and innovation done by researchers, but more by the policy side, trying to shape a good and to develop a good research and innovation policy for the individual African member states, African Union member states. And then, of course, Erasmus Plus will continue also for the next couple of years. So there's always plenty of opportunities to facilitate knowledge transfer and training of researchers and innovators. Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions are the next part, and I think my colleague that speaks after me, Julie, will introduce these actions to you. And then I think this is one of my last slides. I mentioned already, and it was also mentioned by previous speakers, the EU-AU Innovation Agenda that we are trying to formulate right now. What do we want to do is we want to increase the impact of research and innovation on socioeconomic development and job creation, of course. And that was proposed during the ministerial meeting of last July. And of course, this innovation agenda will come in addition to the Africa Initiative. And it will probably, if all goes well, can also build on this Africa Initiative in terms of what can be used from research and innovation results or from projects that have already achieved specific results to create positive impacts on the ground. So these are our plans for the future. I think we are moving forward and we are moving in a very good direction. We hopefully see during the next EU-AU summit in early next year, we see already a comprehensive innovation package that will include also the three main pillars as mentioned here on the slide. So if you want to find more information, you can use this slide. And either use the links in the slide, or you can just type, copy paste the links to the to Google, and you can then certainly find the right websites that we're talking about here. The first link is to our new HLPD website, where you have plenty of information, also in terms of what programs are currently open for applicants to apply for research and innovation funding. We have the fact sheet is also available under this HLPD website. We have also, not to forget, the UFM website, so the Union for the Mediterranean, which is North Africa in particular. We have the Horizon Europe Funding and Tenders portal, and many other links. With this, and with the words of my Commissioner Gabriel, I want to close my contribution. Also not forgetting Professor Akbor, who attended the ministerial meeting last year and who was very constructive and is always very constructive, actually, when it comes to research and innovation promotion and trying to increase our achievements. So I thank you very much for this, and probably we'll talk later in the chat. Thank you.
Many thanks, Jens, for your very comprehensive presentation. You touched a lot of issues, and we already see there is a lot of interest, a lot of questions in the question and answers chat. So just to remember to our attendees that after the presentation of Julie, the following one, we will have a question and answer sessions. And well, in the program, there is also a short break, but we thought that taking into account that there are a lot of questions and we have some delay, we will include this question and answer session also in the short break, so we can have altogether a coffee talking and chatting together. That say, I leave the floor to Julie Lepêtre, that is our colleague of DG EAC, so DG Education, and she will talk about Marie Sklodowska's actions. So Julie, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning to all. Can you hear me? I would be very grateful if my presentation could be shared, because as I said before, I may have some difficulties to share it. So if the presentation can be shown on the screen, that would be great. So good morning. I will start while the presentation is uploaded or is shared on the screen. So first of all, I just would like to say that I'm very happy to be here with you this morning, and I'm also happy to hear that we can use also the short break, because I was looking at the timing, and I will be quick in my presentation about the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, but still there are some information I would like to share with you. So happy to be quick during my presentation, but also available for question and answers, and that we can use a bit the break to exchange further. So I would like also to thank you, to thank the colleagues from the DG Research Innovation from the European Commission, and also of course the Department of Science and Innovation of South Africa. So first of all, what I would like to say about the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, of course, South Africa is very successful in the program. I will come back to these figures and information which have been already shared before. Thanks a lot for the presentation. And I just would like to mention first, before starting with this overview of the Marie Sklodowska-Curie action, that with the launch of Horizon Europe, already 3 calls of the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions have been published on 22 June. So one is on the doctoral networks. I will come back to the names of the actions and the Horizon Europe for you to know what it is about. Postdoctoral fellowships have been published as well. And a last one, which is of less interest for South Africa, which is Msca and Citizens, which actually embeds the European Researchers' Night. But again, this is of less interest for you. I just mentioned it because it has been published on the same day. So I will give you this quick overview of the MSCA, so Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, but let's say MSCA, it will be quicker. And I would like first to give you our new motto, which is developing talents, advancing research. And the reason why I would like to share this motto with you is because it is really meant to highlight the essence of the MSCA: excellence, research, and development of skills. And I really would like to highlight these dimensions, because notably research and innovation are really at the heart of the MSCA. And indeed, I'm working for the DG Education and Culture, but actually it embeds the MSCA, and it's important for us to make clear that, of course, the MSCA are about training and development of skills, but they are on research and innovation as such. For those who know already the MSCA, you should know also that under Horizon Europe, actually the actions will continue playing a key role in training highly skilled, adaptable, and resilient researchers, which actually has been revealed crucial during the pandemic, and which actually will be also crucial for the post-COVID recovery. In the years to come, international, cross-sectoral, and interdisciplinary cooperation as the key dimensions of the program will be further enhanced. We are also introducing novelties from a policy point of view, such as the Msca Green Charter or new guidelines for the supervisors, but I won't go into these details today. I will maybe share later in the chat box that the link to the info day, which was specifically dedicated to the Msca on the 1st of July. So for those who are interested in getting more information, more detailed information about each of the actions, you will have the possibility to watch the recording of this info day. But again, I will share the link after my presentation in the chat. So on this first slide, I won't go into the details of this first slide because Jens already mentioned it, but we are part, the Msca are part of Pillar 1, and Pillar 1 funds excellent science, supports frontier research and breakthrough scientific ideas. And for those who know already the Msca and the Horizon 2020, I just would like to say that there is no revolution in the Horizon Europe, and that the actions as you knew them before will continue to be funded under new names. What we have tried to do actually is really to simplify the actions, to make the actions more accessible, more understandable, and especially to newcomers. Can we move to the next slide, please? If it works.
Julie, I'm sharing my screen. I tried to move to the next slide, but it's not working.
It's not working. I can try to share mine because actually it's
okay.
It will work? No, it works. Thank you.
Yeah, now it's going.
Super, great, thank you. I'm sorry, not sharing myself. It's really because I have an issue by displaying the presentation. About these key figures. So it's the key figures of the Msca in the past 7 years. So as you can see, we have supported more than 65,000 researchers in Europe and beyond, including 25,000 doctoral candidates, as well as more experienced researchers. We have funded more than 1,000 excellent international doctoral programs. It's also important for us to stress that the Msca are a program to the benefit of the researchers, but also of the institutions which are involved in the program. The program has also promoted strong links beyond academia with industry and SMEs. So in the past 7 years, more than 4,500 companies and non-academic organizations have been involved in the program. And I would like really to stress that point because it's maybe less known. And I saw some comments before in the chat. So for you to know that we are also including supporting companies and non-academic organizations. One of our priorities is also to support women into research and to contribute to achieving equal access of women and girls to science. So female researchers make up almost 42% of the program, and actually South Africa does even better with 49% of female researchers involved in the program. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Piero, if you manage to. Yes, thank you. So here are the figures for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions in Africa. Actually, you see that we supported more than 1,600 African researchers in the past 7 years, which represent 275 participations, 80 single institutions, and 44 countries were involved. If we can go quickly to the next slide, because actually the next slide is about the key figures for Msca in South Africa. So here you see that we have the Msca have supported 198 South African researchers. for 79 participations through 66 projects and actually 34 single institutions, among which are almost 80% are academic organizations. We have also 19% of private for-profit organizations and SMEs, 2%. I have listed the top South African participating organizations, and I know I saw in the program that there will be also a testimony from Stellenbosch University, which is indeed pretty much involved in the program. So actually, after my presentation, there will be these additional presentations about Msca project and also the colleague from Euraccess Africa, which would usefully and in a relevant way complement this my presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So under Horizon Europe, the Msca will continue to be a reference program for doctoral and postdoctoral training, contributing to develop highly skilled researchers able to detect and tackle upcoming challenges, able to communicate scientific evidence to policymakers and the public, and to work across disciplines. We will continue to provide researchers with skills needed in the labor market in order to innovate, to convert knowledge and ideas into products and services for economic and social benefit of our societies, and to develop excellent doctoral programs, enhancing the global attractiveness and visibility of the institutions which are involved. In terms of budget, under Horizon Europe, the Msca will represent 6.6 billion euros. If we can, thank you for the link. If we can move to the next slide, please. About our key features. These are the key principles of the Msca. So the Msca supports researchers at any stage of their career with a focus on training, skills, and career development. They promote structuring impact on organizations through, as I said already, as I mentioned already, excellent doctoral and postdoctoral programs and collaborative projects. Which is very important is that the Msca is a bottom-up program, meaning that it is open to all scientific disciplines. So it means also that we do not organize targeted calls. Proposals are selected on the basis of their excellence, impact, and quality, and efficiency of the implementation. The Msca support international, cross-sectoral, and interdisciplinary mobility. So as regards international cooperation, the program is open to researchers from all over the world. Today, about 40% of Msca researchers are from outside the EU. And it was actually the most international program under Horizon 2020, and we really hope it will continue to be the same under Horizon Europe. As regards cross-sectoral and interdisciplinary cooperation, as I said already before, Msca promotes strong links beyond academia with industry and SMEs. And actually under Horizon Europe, we will introduce some financial incentives. I can go back to that point later on during the question and answers if necessary. Next slide, please. So I will go to the names of the actions. Thanks a lot. So for you to know, for those who know the actions under Horizon 2020, we have new names, as I said before, under Horizon Europe. So doctoral networks, it's the former Innovative Training Networks, ITN, for you to know. So doctoral networks include joint doctorates and industrial, doctorates. And they are established by consortia of universities, but also research centers, enterprises, and any relevant non-academic partner. Postdoctoral fellowships correspond to the former individual fellowships. So this is for more experienced researchers interested in doing their research in Europe, but also outside. As regards staff exchanges, they support research and innovation staff exchanges. Co-fund is about co-funding doctoral and postdoctoral programs. And as I said before, the Msca and citizens, actually, it's not really an action, it's a coordination and support action. But here it's a bit less relevant for South Africa because it concerns actually only the EU member states and Horizon Europe associated countries. But just for you to know that it concerns public outreach and events such as the European Literature Night. I would like to clarify a bit how it goes, how it works for third countries in terms of participation. So if we can move to the next slide, please. I will try to finish soon because I would like to have sufficient time for question and answers for all the speakers and the attendees. So very quickly, organizations from Africa can participate as associated partners to all the actions. So doctoral networks, staff exchanges, postdoctoral fellowships, and co-funds. They can be beneficiaries for the doctoral networks only. So what is the difference between being a beneficiary and being an associated partner? Being beneficiary means that you sign the grant agreement, you have a minimum number of and geographical requirements. So there are some requirements of yours to fulfill, and you can receive the funding directly. Being associated partner means that you contribute to the action and you have to prove that you really actively contribute to the action, but you do not receive directly the funding. It goes through the beneficiaries. However, I really would like to stress, and actually we can see that through the figures of the participations of South Africa in the Msca, that being an associated partner is still interesting. It has also even some, let's say, advantages, because if I summarize, it represents actually lighter processes in terms of validation requirements, in terms of auditing, in terms of signatures of agreements. Again, being associated partner means still to be active in the action as such. If I go to the next slide, here you have the opportunities for researchers, for individuals from Africa. Yes, great, thank you. Here again, they can participate in all these main actions: doctoral networks, staff exchanges, postdoctoral fellowships, and co-funds. For doctoral networks, individuals apply to the program of their choice through the EURAccess job portal. And here, as I said, you will have a presentation of EURAccess Africa from our colleague Dalibor. Staff exchanges, staff participate through the sending institutions. So it goes between the participating institutions. And it's about actually secondment of staff members. Postdoctoral fellowships, researchers have to find a host organization which will apply. And about co-fund, individuals apply through, again, the EURAccess job portal. If we can go to the next slide, you will have here the calls calendar. So as you can see, as I mentioned before, doctoral networks, postdoctoral fellowships, and Msca and citizens have already opened on 22 June. So they are ongoing. You will have 2 other calls in 2021, staff exchanges and co-fund. But for you to know that we have these calls open every year. So in 2022, you will have, again, opportunities to apply to doctoral networks, postdoctoral fellowships, staff exchanges, and co-funds. If you go to the next slide, I believe that this presentation can be shared with participants if you are interested in getting all this information and all the links. On the next slide, you have a slide on the key resources. I won't go into these details because I believe that you may have some further information from our colleague from EURAccess as well. But just for you to know that, of course, All the information are published on the funding and tenders portal. You have, of course, also information on our website, Msca Reactions website. And here, actually, you have all the relevant links, and actually, you can also introduce some specific question into the research inquiry service. So I will stop here because I know that I was a bit long as well, and I thank you very much for your attention. And I will be, of course, happy to contribute to the question and answer session, which will take place now, I believe. Thanks a lot.
Many thanks, Julie, for offering us an overview about the opportunities of the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. So we go straight to the question and answers that will have a main focus on Horizon Europe. So, so mainly for you, Julie, and Jens. So Jens, be ready. The first question is why we have a plan for 7 years in Horizon Europe while the technological cycle is 2 years?
Yeah.
You want to reply? Well, sorry, I didn't say that. Technically, we have 3 minutes, but I believe we can steal 5 more minutes to the next session. So we have 8 minutes to reply to all the questions. We try to be sharp.
Yes.
and fast. Yeah. Jens, go ahead.
Okay, so I can hopefully reply in 30 seconds. The issue is really that Horizon Europe, it has a period of 7 years in which or during which the budget can be distributed and can be organized through work programs. So the budgets could be implemented through work programs, and these work programs, they are designed in 2 or 3 years periods. So it's a purely administrative issue, I think.
Great, many thanks. I go to the next question of David. Some of us are very keen to participate and contribute our respective expertise, but might need assistance to identify suitable collaborators, EU-based. Are there any resources available to assist with this? And Vinny offered to answer. Vinny.
Maybe just from the South African perspective, and then Jens could also add. I think what's important is that later on in this event, my colleague Ntombi will present ESA-STEP. And ESA-STEP is an important platform for enhanced collaboration between South African researchers and European researchers. But also we have something called the National Contact Point platform, which we had done under Horizon 2020, which is useful in terms of just facilitating networks and engagement. And I also think, Jens, under Horizon 2020, there was specifically the national contact points where you could make contact with your counterparts, and perhaps for Horizon Europe, that might be the same. So I hand over to you. Thanks.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Oh, sorry, Jens, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's exactly the same. The national contact point networks that work across Europe and include also countries like South Africa, for example, they are really useful. So I would just recommend making use of them as much as possible. I hope the colleagues will will accept my apologies for making their life harder. But it's useful to use the NCP network in South Africa, for example, and it's also a possibility if you just as an alternative on the funding and tenders portal, you can find the link that we shared with you before. You can find underneath the Africa call. If you scroll down to the end of the page, you can find the partner search tool that you can also use, and I think that might also be relevant in this context.
Thanks, Ian. Then there is the question of Alana. about that I will keep for myself. It's concerning the role of advisory group guiding the selection process of projects. Well, the advisory group, well, our selection process of projects is fully transparent, and this is not connected to political views. The advisory group will help us to provide input to the next work program for the following years. That's its main role. Next question, I would pass to Jens. Can South African participate in Pillar 3? And if so, in which programs?
That's a good question. I have tried to look into this quickly. I would need to check with my colleagues. But for example, one of the initiatives that are ongoing and will continue operating, at least that is what we know for now, is the Eureka network that is specifically designed for collaboration between SMEs and researchers and innovators. Maybe Vinny can also talk about this. And of course, the European Innovation Council. But again, here I would need to check what they have on offer for participants from non-EU excuse me, from non-EU countries.
Okay, thanks. Vinny, do you want to add something?
No, I think we'll wait for, we can post on the ESASEP's website, Jens, once we have more information on Pillar 3. I think that would be the best, because then it will be official information. Thanks.
Thanks, Vinny. Then there is a very specific question of Bob concerning the topic on poverty-related infectious diseases, and there is Professor Keo that would like to answer. Well, we have really 30 seconds, Professor. You're very welcome. I don't know if
no.
Well, no. Okay. Okay. Well,
to me, I didn't know about that.
Okay, maybe I can just quickly say something that potential people who are interested in the topic should read the entire topic, the topic text, including the scope and the expected impacts, because under there you will find more information about what is requested in terms of collaboration opportunities and what are the areas that should be addressed. Of course, it is in the framework of infectious diseases, but you can, I think, use many ways of fighting infectious diseases, starting from diagnostics to medical treatments to vaccination or whatever.
Thanks, Jens. Then we have a question of Liesel. I think this is going to Vinny. For SMEs in South Africa, can DSI support with top-up funding to bridge the gap between 70 and 100% funding?
So we have a process where we work with our experts in the content area, like for example in Eureka, which is looking at innovation and supporting SMEs. There is a process, but it's a case-by-case basis. So it happens in discussion with the DSI and the technical experts in terms of how the funding model could work. My colleague, Toto, who's also connected here, can provide you with further information and the details around the application processes, etc. But there is that possibility. Thanks.
Thanks, Vinny. Now we move to Arise. And well, this is for Jens. You want to reply to this, or I can
try. I can try.
Okay, well, just from my side, I just mentioned that they already opened the call.
Okay.
For, yeah, please go ahead. Well, our programs are funded. Sorry, I have the screen that is keep on moving. Funded under, say, Arise, eligible to apply for further funding under these calls. And South African institutions will be able to apply as lead applicants.
Well, Piero, maybe you can answer that better than I can, because I'm not so much aware of the conditions of who and who can apply.
Well,
whether institutions or individual researchers. I
well,
think
okay, well, in just few words, well, Arise program include 500 grants all over Africa, and well, if they are eligible to apply for further funding under these calls. Well, these are two different programs. Obviously, nobody, well, it's allowed to apply with similar projects to different programs. Obviously, this doesn't mean that you will be succeeding, but technically you could apply with different proposals, with different projects for different programs. This is for 100% allowed. Then we go to a question for Julie. What it means by looking for vacancies for Marie Sklodowska's reaction at sending institutions for the staff exchanges?
Yes, so as regards the staff exchanges, just to make things a bit more clear, actually, who applies? It's a consortium of at least 3 legal entities in 3 different countries. So what I meant by staff exchanges is about the staff sent by the sending institution. It's because the consortium is based on among these 3 legal entities, and then these entities are exchanging staff members involved in research and innovation activities. So it could be staff in the administration, it could be researchers, so anyone who is involved in their R&I activities, but again, it's made by the institution as such. So I hope it clarifies. And I see that there is another question about the MSc, which I can maybe address immediately because it was the next one, about doctoral candidates. You can apply to the MSc through the EURAccess job portal. And I will be very quick because I know that there will be this presentation on EURAccess. So I believe that my colleague will be able to develop a bit further this answer. So I stop here not to take too much time. But Dalibor will do more, I think.
Thanks. Then we have a question from Busisva, but I think it's already answered. And then, well, 2 more. Di Cabo, this is a very important presentation. Are you able to organize these talks in other countries? Well, Di Cabo, we already organized this call for this events for Francophone, Lusophone, and Anglophone Africa. This week we had all week long events. Well, they will be the presentations and also the streamed videos will be made public. So be in touch with us and we will be glad to provide you all the videos, all the information concerning these events. Okay, please give some feedback on UK eligibility for participation. Jens, do you want to do it or it's up to you? You go for it.
Sorry, the question was about eligibility of UK
partners with a reference to Brexit, if they are eligible for these calls.
Well, in principle, they are always eligible. It doesn't matter from which country they are coming. The question, if it refers to the funding, of course, so eligibility for receiving EU funding, then at the moment, I think, if I understood correctly, they are eligible. But it depends on whether the UK for the future will sign an association agreement, which is still under negotiation.
Yeah, well, if I can add it, they are in a situation of pre-association, so there is an agreement that they are eligible for funding and they will be funded by us, expecting it to be UK full associated to the program.
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, here the questions are like mushrooms. They are growing up more and more. It's can Horizon and DSI fund South Africa SOE, maybe a center of excellence with telecommunications and socioeconomic responsibility. I don't know what is SOE. Maybe Vinny, you can.
I'm just wondering whether SOE is referring to state-owned entities.
Okay.
I suspect in this context, but I could be mistaken. But I mean, from the perspective, like Jens has said, I mean, Horizon Europe is open to everyone in terms of whichever institution or area of work or entity they belong to. For example, the National Research Foundation, which is an entity, has participated in some of the Horizon 2020 calls. So, I mean, it just depends on the context. And of course, as I said before, there's a discussion to be had with the DSI, because the fact is you are already receiving public funds, you know, but I mean, that we can take to the next level. So I'll stop there, Piero, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Vinny. And well, just replying to the following question about the opportunity to produce IP with commercial potential in ESASTAP and Horizon Europe. Well, this is one, basically the main, one of the main reasons of our program, you know, to reach with our results, with our work, to reach the society with results that can be applicable, can be useful for our people. So also IP is a part of it. I think we finished with the questions. So Vinny, I give you the floor for chairing the next session.
Perfect. Thanks, Piero. Thanks to our presenters of the last session. That was quite useful and important because it talks to Horizon Europe and the Africa Initiative. And as Jens said, as South African researchers, you are not excluded from other parts unless it's specifically states. So, you know, it's not just the Africa Initiative, it's more than the Africa Initiative under Horizon Europe that you could look at and participate in with your European partners to form consortia. So the next segment of this program is basically, we've seen some comments and questions around networking, how do I find partners in Europe, etc. And we thought it would be quite useful to have some perspectives and experiences of South African researchers in terms of how they network, how they got into consortia, you know, what were the highlights, what were the success factors, what could have been some of the challenges, etc. Just to go quickly through their particular experiences in working through some of the projects that they have been involved, but specifically, you know, just to touch on the experiences. And we've got four presentations in the segment, but to start, it's Professor Peterson from the Stellenbosch University. Prof. Peterson, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Hi, Vinny. Thank you for the introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. Is it available, Vinny?
Yes, we can see it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks to you and the organizers for inviting me to give this presentation. I extend an invitation to all the researchers out there who intend following this program to contact me around any of the practicalities on the ground for getting this. This project arose as a part of the MSCA program, the recent Research and Innovation Staff Exchange component. And it was in response to the MSCA RISE 2016 call. And the project itself was called VIR-free, which was for virus-free fruit nurseries. Now, as a researcher, the temptation is going to be for me to get really technical, but I'm going to resist that. So the technical component of my talk will be relatively light. So the presentation is just split up into a few aspects. First, just a very light technical introduction, then the project objectives and the structure, how the collaboration came about, partners in their projects and the roles, and then students, plan deliverables, and the impact. The project started while I was at the University of Pretoria, and was able to follow me once I changed universities and came down to University of Stellenbosch. So it's really based on the fact that in agriculture with very valuable commodities, something known as vegetative propagation is often used. This is basically where you take a small part of a plant and you regenerate a whole new plant from that. And the new plant can be multiplied into thousands or millions of plants. And the reason for doing this is to preserve the genetic status of the original plant. So there's no sexual reproduction involved. There's no variability that gets introduced. This has massive advantages in agriculture, of course. It also has a disadvantage, and that is that the disease status of the crop is retained. So if a mother plant had a specific virus in it, that virus could potentially occur in all the progeny. So to avoid this, most countries introduce certification schemes where they would certify that an initial plant would be free of any harmful organisms, and then only from that would the plant be propagated. So for example, in the grapevine industry, in figure A, grapevines are grown in very hot conditions. The grapevines grow very, very quickly, so quickly that the couple of cells right at the top of the growing tip are virus-free. So by taking those few cells and regenerating a new plant, you can get a healthy plant which can be propagated. The challenge also is to ensure that these plants are now free. And this forms the basis of this project. So while the emphasis is on training of the students and postdocs in this staff exchange project, it's based on improving this situation for fruit trees and grapevines. So there were 3 objectives: to develop novel diagnostic techniques, to improve this means of eliminating viruses, and to identify and characterize any new pathogens on these plants. And it was divided into 4 work packages, which very closely approximate those objectives. I'm not going to go into the technical detail of that. The project was initiated and is the brainchild of 2 Greek researchers, Professor Vavaram Maligocha and Professor Kriton Kalantidis. They're at the Aristotle University of Technology in Thessaloniki and at Forth in Crete. And they were both involved in the fruit tree industry. They approached a number of collaborators. So first of all, people with expertise on virology, plant virology, in European countries that had expertise on viruses specifically of fruit trees. They also approached a university that has expertise in the propagation process. They, as industrial partners, they involved Beta and Phytotechniki as collaborators, and then also a couple of SMEs in Europe that actually provide detection technologies and kits for nurseries and other industries. So as third-party countries is where South Africa came in. I was at the University of Pretoria at that stage. Angola was also approached, as well as the Institute of Plant Protection in China. The Chinese third-party country would have brought their own funding and through some complex situation were going to also take part in this project. However, both they and the Angolan partners withdrew eventually. The project since 2019 also was continued at Stellenbosch University. So the consortium really had expertise all the way along the technical line, all the way from the horticulture through to the marketing and economic side of things. But the main focus, the main deliverable was staff exchanges. And we had planned 82 such staff exchanges as part of this program. As you can imagine, the first 2 years of this project, this worked very well. But since COVID, we've had real problems in completing these. However, from the South African perspective, these are the exchanges that took place. We had 3 PhD candidates going to mainly the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. I went on 2 occasions as well, and we had 2 Greek postdoctoral students visit us at Stellenbosch University. I'm not going to go into the technical details, but we achieved a fair amount. We managed to develop some diagnostic techniques, some techniques to actually do these tests in the field, and then also discovered some new viruses and developed further diagnostic techniques towards these viruses. There was also some training components that were conducted. There were 4 training programs in the course, and students, PhD students and postdocs attended some of these. Now, the impact of this program was enormous. I have found this a fantastic project. All 3 PhD students and all 3 postdocs were highly motivated by the fact that they could spend some time in a laboratory in Europe. They received further training through the periods that they were in Europe. Even a normal technique done in your own laboratory is done differently in another laboratory. And they learned enormously from even seeing how normal day-to-day things are done differently. They learned how other laboratories work, how they're constituted. They developed professional relationships and almost invariably made friendships as well during these exchanges. They learned new techniques and they really grew. These are young people who, in some instances, were going overseas for the first time, having to travel on their own, having to make decisions about where to stay, where to buy food, things like that. They grew enormously. They came back as confident young grown-ups. As an established researcher, also having made use of this program, I relished the time at being back in the laboratory for a couple of weeks. Once again, it really expanded the professional relationship and the friendship I had, and it has increased my network. I've learned some more techniques in the field of bioinformatics, and really, I am incredibly grateful to have taken part in this project. As you can imagine, though, it was severely constrained by not being able to travel in 2020 and this year. What makes the project really fantastic is that you can, there's a lot of flexibility in the time that people can spend on these exchanges, from 1 month through all the way up to 4 years. And this is very handy as it allows great flexibility around personal situations. People are, students at that age are starting to get married, they're starting to get in serious relationships, they don't want to go away from home for too long sometimes. Sometimes they want to go away for longer periods. I found the consortium exceptionally well crafted. It brought together all the people that were required for the technical success of the project. We found the funds to go to Europe were sufficient if one stayed relatively cheaply and looked after the finances. It certainly is more cost effective to do these exchanges for longer periods of time, as the air ticket takes up a fair chunk of the amount. I found the internal administration for each exchange was not completely insignificant, but if you've done it once or twice, it becomes really easy to do that. So all in all, a wonderful program, and I would be more than willing to help any new researcher in South Africa who wants to take part in this program. Thank you, Vinny.
Thanks, Prof. Peterson, for that informative presentation. I mean, you've come back with 3 PhDs and 3 postdocs who you say have been highly motivated, and I think that's quite important from the perspective of South Africa. Internationalization of science is key for us to grow our national system of innovation, and I think this helps as well. We are a bit tight on time, so I'm going to move swiftly along. For the next project and experience, we have Professor Motaung and Professor Nke Chuang. So if I could ask both to please take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vinay. May I please request permission to share the slide, or can you share the slide from your side?
Okay, I can share the slide.
Okay, thank you.
Vinny?
Go ahead,
yes.
Go ahead, Prof.
Can you see my slide?
Not yet.
But this morning they were seeing the slides, you know.
Okay, we can see it now. Thank you.
Okay. Prof, are they on the slide mode?
No. Please place it on slideshow.
Okay, are they fine? Yes.
Okay. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be present, to be invited to this event and to present our side of our experience and our story with the DSI and the Horizon 2020. As you would see from our presentation, the title is SARS-CoV infection in HIV patients with and without antiretroviral therapy in sub-Saharan Africa. Because we are 2 of us who are sharing this slide, Akio from Durban University of Technology and myself from Walter Sisulu University will share our time and talk to the different slides that we would be presenting to you this morning. Next slide, please. Okay. You would remember in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, there were talks about HIV infected persons not being, having some immunity against SARS-CoV-2. And there were questions if antiretroviral therapy could be protective or could treat SARS-CoV-2 infection. However, these questions were quickly answered. Next slide, please. These questions were quickly answered when in January 2020, there was a case, the first reported case from Wuhan of someone who had a co-infection of SARS-CoV-2 and HIV infection. This was later followed by a number of other cases from all around the world. So it became clear that there might not necessarily be an advantage of being infected with COVID-19 or taking ARV treatments. Next slide, please. It was around this time that Professor Nandu Goswami, as we were chatting about COVID-19 and what we could do to contribute to the knowledge base on this virus, the infection, and how it would affect various systems in the human body, that he approached us and informed us about an ECDTP call, which was open at the time and required 2 European partners and at least one sub-Saharan partner. Just to give a bit more detail on Prof. Goswami, I met Prof. Goswami in 2014 at a physiological conference in Durban. And after my presentation, Prof. Goswami approached me and said, I think we can work together. We have this project which is coming up soon, known as Indo-Africa Research Project, where they were looking at the cardiovascular impact of HIV and antiretroviral treatment in sub-Saharan Africa. So he invited me to the consortium and we started doing some research. And from that partnership, we were able to then apply for joint funding on a DSI funded project, South Africa, Austrian collaboration. And we were blessed to have the project funded. So we had the opportunity to have both staff and student exchange between Walter Sisulu University and the Medical University of Graz for data collection and for research experience. And that led to a lot of the training of students, that is human capital, of human capacity building. We had honors and master's students who participated and graduated. We had medical students from the Medical University who also did their research project on those themes that we were working on. So we built that relationship. So this is the same Prof. Nandu who approached us and said, can we now build another consortium around coronavirus infection, and we shall call it the Endo-COVID Consortium. Next slide, please. So Prof. Goswami contacted Kyo, to your right, from the Durban University of Technology, and contacted Simiat from the University of Lagos, and myself. There were many other contacts, but these are the contacts which survived the test of time. And so we started working on the project. Next slide, please. And then he also contacted two other partners, including himself, 3. To my left, we have Permorton. Permorton was introduced to us earlier before this call came up, and we started collaborating and have put some publications together which have been published. And we have also attempted to apply for other calls so that we could have an EU-African collaborative project with the 2 universities in Norway, that is University of Oslo and Christiania University College in Norway as well, in collaboration with Prof. Nandu. So the 6 persons I've presented became the site principal investigators in this EDCTP call on coronavirus infection, in which we are looking at how this infection affects the cardiovascular system, and if there is any difference between how HIV and ARVs affect the system. So that is a project, and these are the principal investigators, and we had other members who were called on board to support the various phases of the project, because we would have, we needed statisticians, we needed molecular biologists, HIV specialists, virologists, and so on. So at this point, I would like to request Kyo to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Just continue with the presentation. And one of the things that I always said, COVID will humble us. COVID has humbled us. Whoever thought that scientists, molecular biologists, clinicians can work together, especially in the African continent, because everyone used to work in solo. After that consortium, myself and Prof, we also, Benedicta, we also end up forming our own consortium, because you cannot do this without collaboration. There are the people, and I managed to also to have Professor Kaleni from University of UKZN, where our main focus for me, where we come in, is the expertise of medicinal plants, where we have to look at that. So the broad objectives of the project was to assess the prevalence of SARS-CoV-2 infections in the people living with HIV admitted in the outpatient clinic in 2 sub-Saharan countries, South Africa and Nigeria. Number 2, assess the impact of SARS-CoV-2 infection on vascular parameters and biomarkers. Reason for the biomarkers: currently, at the moment, when you have to go and test for COVID, we don't really have biomarkers. And these are the challenges that we have. Number 3, to assess the relationship between SARS-CoV-2 infection and the severity of cardiovascular disease in patients, and to assess the effect of ART on severity of SARS-CoV-2 infections in people living with HIV, and assess the effects of SARS-CoV-2 infection on vascular function and coagulation during the infection recovery. And because of when you form a team, each and everyone must have the role, what each one is going to do. I'm not going to go through what one is going to do, but just to show that when you do this kind of collaboration, it's not easy, because everyone must bring her or his own expertise into the project. It's not like people always write project and after that they will start saying, do you want to be part and parcel of my project? So everyone was very clear on what the person is going to contribute. As I was saying, we had a clinician, we had the scientist, we had the molecular biologists, that we can all work together in terms of that. So in terms of the impact, what we need to achieve, contribute to the knowledge base of COVID-19 infection in the sub-Saharan population. Also, human capital. I mean, we know capacity building is extremely important in terms of the training of our postgraduate students. On the other hand, the intellectual cross-pollination, there will be a scientific exchange, joint supervision, postgraduate students, joint mentorship of emerging researchers, joint publication, and many more. And we're also going to be able to promote collaborative research culture, and that is going to increase the feasibility of the African universities on the international scientific landscape. And having said that, based on my experience as a researcher, as an entrepreneur, that is also going to have the possibility of commercializing this research. As it is right now, just to brag a little bit, which there's nothing wrong, is very important. Current status of the study, the paper has already been published and accepted. I'm not going to go in details about that. It can show that there's already an ongoing work that we have already done. All equipment has been procured, training has already taken place, and data has already begun to be collected. And this wouldn't have happened without the support from Department of Science and Innovation for funding us, and EDTCP for reviewing and approving our research project, and Walter Sisulu University for research support, Durban University of Technology for research support. And I really want to mention the following from DSI. I must be able to mention the name: Toto, Tugela, and Nontombi. Thank you so much for supporting us. I know myself and Benedicta can behave like little girls, but you were always on our toes to make sure that we are on top of our game. We really want to thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much, Evini, and I'm now going to hand over. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think that's Team South Africa at the DSI supporting the innovation landscape in our country. I like the point you made about finding the synergies in the project team, because I think that's important in terms of bringing the different expertise together. And also, I mean, different consortia evolve in different ways, and yours kind of had a mix of existing contacts through other bilateral initiatives and then new contacts. And I think networking and existing projects are also good ways to identify some potential partners on the African continent, but also in Europe itself. I must apologize. Prof. Nikki Wagner was supposed to have spoken. So Prof. Wagner from the University of Johannesburg will now take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me share my screen. Okay, I'm hoping that you're able to see my presentation.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I participated in the third Euromin joint call on sustainable supply of raw materials in Europe. The project commenced in 2015 with the title of Coal Char as a Substituting Material of Natural Graphite in Green Energy Technologies, which we refer to as Charphite. The project was driven by the University of Porto, and they actually approached me as a collaborator on this project. And this presentation is put together by myself and our PhD student here in South Africa and many, many other collaborators. We've actually got a really good YouTube video, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to show it now, but anybody interested, this YouTube video was put together by Professor Valentine for presentation at EU launch earlier this year in the European Union. It shows a number of our collaborating partners. But just due to the interest of time, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the background to the project. The project commenced in April 2016 with a total budget of just over 903 million euros, but sorry, 903,000 euros. But that money was the European component, the South African component, and all the other collaborating partners. So the objective was to look at char residue, fly ash residue from combustion from power stations, and then to determine if we could extract the unburned carbon and consider utilization for graphite. And there were some very interesting results of that project, and some of the work is still going on, even though the project is finished. But there's more information on the YouTube slide. But in terms of the overall experience from my side, I was approached by Professor Valentine in April 2015. We had collaborated previously, but not on a major project such as this. Time is not always the essence, and things had to move very quickly with contacting the South African National Funder, which is the DSI, to inform them that we're going to participate in this project. Because we had to obtain, obviously, permission. Before even putting in the application, you have to obtain permission from all the collaborating partners that they would consider potentially funding the project should it be successful. So we also had to obtain acknowledgement from the institution, and we finally submitted the first round application in the May 2015, where we received an answer very quickly in the July about that we processed through the first round eligibility. And we had the successful outcome was announced in October. Once the outcome is announced, then you've still got to get all your partners signed on, and this takes a long time. So whilst it was announced in October, the project itself only commenced in April 2016 with the contracts from the 9 partners on 3 continents, 2 of us on non-European, myself and a colleague from Buenos Aires. So the project ran for 3 years, and one thing that we need to make sure people are aware is that the funding that the European partner might apply for does not necessarily apply to the funding that you will use in South Africa. So under Euromin, there was a requirement that the DSI would be funding the South African component, and at a ratio of 90% to 10%, where I had to find the additional 10% of the funding. We sourced a PhD candidate, and at the same time, we're putting in the application to the DSI to confirm the DSI component of the funding model. So all the national partners, all the international partners had to go through the same process with their national funding foundation, the national funder. So just to bear that in mind, this does take a little bit of time, but we are able to get the project running, and we had a great PhD candidate in South Africa. Each of the European partners had their own researchers, other PhD candidates allocated to the project within that particular region. So the learnings were great, as everybody said. To participate in these large international consortium projects are just fantastic. So the opportunity to work with the international team, opportunities to travel. We were able to visit the 1 or 2 of the consortium countries for our annual progress meetings. and the PhD student had some exchanges in Romania. And the PhD student is actually now a postdoc at the University of Porto, carrying on other aspects of the project, even though this main Euromin project has completed. So there's always the eternal continuing growth for research and journal exposure, and the opportunity to present results at international conferences with international consortiums. What I do recommend is that you need to be very clear about the roles and responsibilities. I think the previous speaker also alluded to this. You have your work packages, and it must be that it's clear who is the lead in those work packages, and that everybody does take the responsibility for that particular component. So you need to be aware of your collaborators' strengths and weaknesses, and to further develop the collaborator opportunities. So the direct benefit in terms of South Africa was that we had successful PhD candidate, international presentations already produced, and further publications still on the pipeline. And this interaction has led to ongoing outputs and ongoing collaboration with regards to other projects. We've actually got another Euromin application in currently with some other consortium partners. So yes, it's a great learning opportunity. It enables a lot of collaboration and sharing of thoughts, ideas, people, and just generally getting to know people in other countries and how things work. So I'm going to stop there. Oh, sorry, there was one tip. This is a slide that came out of the YouTube presentation to make sure that it is easy to find those partners. There are find partners opportunities on most of these call applications where you can register your speciality or your project and say that you're seeking partners in that particular area. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Prof. I think the key point for many that are not experienced in working under any of the framework programs is the timeline and the duration. So it's not a process that happens in a few weeks from the time the calls are launched to forming the consortia and signing the grant agreement. And I think that's quite key to take into consideration when you're planning and engaging with partners. So it's always useful to be part of the process from the beginning. And I also think the issue of roles and responsibilities, because you have such multi-dimensional partners on different continents working together, working virtually, coming together in some instances, it's important, as you say, that each one is clear about their role and responsibility moving forward. Our next presentation is from Dr. Caroline Leenaerts from HIV-A, KU Leuven. Prof, over to you.
Yes, I'm trying to share my screen, but somebody else is still sharing, so I cannot start yet.
Our technical team, please assist.
Okay, maybe it will work now. Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, I will try to make it full screen so you can see it. So good morning, everybody. My name is Caroline Leenaerts. I work as a research manager at the University of Leuven in Belgium. So I'm a bit of a strange speaker in this session, but I'm extremely happy to be here with all of you today and to talk a bit about the Horizon 2020 project Untangled that we are coordinating at Leuven, but which also includes the University of Cape Town from South Africa as a partner, and we are very excited to have them on board. So thank you all for all the presentations so far. I already learned a lot. And so the Untangled project actually stands for Untangling the Impacts of Technological Transformations, Globalization and Demographic Change to Foster Shared Prosperity in Europe. So it's Horizon 2020 project launched under the call Transformations 18-2020. So really this work program on Europe in a changing world of work, focusing especially on inclusive, innovative and reflective society. So it's rather a project focusing on social sciences and economics. We only started a few months ago, so we are really in the early stages of the project, and we will finish in January of 2024. So still a lot of work to be done. Now on this slide, you can see our consortium. We are 14 partners, but actually 3 are non-EU partners. So we have IPL-CAS from China, Fedesarolo from Colombia, and the University of Cape Town from South Africa, as I mentioned before. We actually thought that it was incredibly important to take on board also non-EU countries, because as you will see on the following slide, actually in the Untangled project, we focus on 3 mega trends. So technology, globalization, and demographic change. And these create opportunities, but also, of course, severe socioeconomic challenges that still need to be understood and addressed. We know that these trends are accelerating and they are predicted to continue doing so, and they create winners and losers, both when we look at companies, when we look at workers. They have an impact on inequality within and between countries, and this also requires, of course, policy responses. So we want to understand not only what are the individual effects of these mega trends, but also the combined effects. So for example, as technology is also accelerating globalization, what is the combined impact now, but also in the future, and who is really affected by the trends, and how can we manage those trends to foster shared prosperity? Now, of course, these are global trends that we are looking at. So it would not make sense to only look at Europe. And actually in the Horizon 2020 call linked to this project, it was mentioned that maybe also non-European countries and expertise could be considered. But we felt that rather than just looking at literature or inviting some non-EU partners to sit on a stakeholder board, we really wanted to have them as partners in the project, contributing, sharing their experiences, and actually taking on some joint research activities. So that's what we ended up doing. So these are the building blocks. So the trends, as I said, then how will we approach it? So we will look at past impacts at micro, meso, and micro levels. So what happens at the country level and internationally, what happens in regions and sectors, and what really happens at the levels of firms and workers. So we look at different types of outcomes, skills, inequality, but also mobility and migration. As I mentioned now and in the future, so we will be developing some scenarios, and for this, especially the expertise of the non-EU countries is also very relevant. And then we will try to develop some policies to really have this moving forward towards a shared prosperity. How we will do this, so as I said, we are mostly economists and social scientists, so we combine quantitative and qualitative research, which includes interviews, case studies, a survey, but also econometric and statistical analysis, microsimulation, and so on. And we have a very big part on stakeholder engagement, where we are trying to collaborate also with social partners, with governments, with NGOs, with companies, and so on, in each of the different countries and regions represented. So again, here, having really the non-EU partners and South African partner with us in the consortium makes a huge difference to really reach out and understand what is happening. And so this will happen through workshops, webinars, an open virtual cafe, so where people can just log on and discuss, ask their questions, and also a Delphi study. And all of this will contribute to the scenario building. In terms of output, since we are just starting, not much has been published yet, but you will see we will try to write different research papers and reports. Hopefully some of these will also be published in academic journals, but also policy briefs on different topics, as you can see on the right of the slide, and develop infographics and videos. And we will do different types of project events, again, where also the colleagues from South Africa will be contributing and participating. So if you're interested, you're very welcome, of course, to join the workshops or the midterm and the final conference. And just to give you a few examples of tasks in which also the colleagues from South Africa will be involved. So one of them is dealing specifically with challenges and opportunities from automation, labor supply, and skills in the context of global value chains and how they are developing. So we want to understand the main challenges and opportunities linked to these mega trends that I was referring to, using different types of research methodologies to really understand impact of the trend in the different regions. So here we take the regional approach, and the colleagues from South Africa, they will not just look at South Africa, but cover a wider region in Africa to really understand what is happening there. So for example, the youth bulge that we see in Africa and what impact it could have on global value chains, and then linking it back up to this idea of the shared prosperity. When we submitted the project, it was March 2020. So it was just before the COVID outbreak really hit Europe. We of course, also mentioned the COVID-19 crisis in the proposal, and this is something that we will definitely have to take into consideration, as also other speakers also pointed out, precisely because we expect this lasting impact on global value chains that we already see today. Another task that the colleagues will be involved in is to really understand the quality of change. So again, looking at different types of case studies, but then in sectors that are particularly relevant in the different countries. And so in this case for South Africa, we are looking at business services, but also workplace innovation as a transversal issue. So this is again something that would be very difficult or impossible to do just from Europe without really the active engagement and the support of the national partners. So we are extremely happy to have the opportunity to work with them. Maybe just one more thing before I close. So how did we manage to find these non-EU partners? So in our case, we had one organization in the consortium that had successfully collaborated already with the University of Cape Town as part of a project that was funded by the World Health Organization. And so they were really excited about the collaboration. And as soon as we reached out to University of Cape Town, actually it was really quite simple. We could just easily add them as a partner in the Horizon 2020 portal. It was not any particular challenge for us as a coordinator. So that was really nice to see just how easily you can actually reach out to South African partners in this case and really have them on board in the project. So that's just something I wanted to share. So as I said, we only just started, but you can of course stay in touch with us as we will continue our work. We have a website, a platform, newsletters, press releases, and social media, which you can see on the next slide. And I will stop here. Thank you so much again for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I really learned a lot, and I wish you all a very nice day.
Thank you for your insights around this project that's still continuing and the challenges around COVID. And I think we've already touched on, you know, how you can get partners in using existing networks, getting, as you say, UCT was an already existing collaboration and an existing partner. I think also what's useful in this segment that we've looked at the various projects and perspectives, it goes back to the point made in our opening by Dan and Christina and Augustine, is the kind of impact that the research and international collaboration has. And I think some of the elements are being highlighted here as well. So you often kind of think, so where's the impact? We providing these funds, and I think some of these, looking at opportunities for automation, you know, looking at the labor market, looking at automation, looking at the issues of health, etc., are critical current issues that we all face globally. So I think that's important in terms of dealing with societal impacts and how that research filters through the various communication fora. And I think it's quite important, all these webinars and networking engagements that continue to be useful, even within the project consortia, because it brings together experts and widens that base of knowledge. So I will hand over and thank again the speakers for this specific segment to Piero to moderate the next session. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Vinny. So we have 20 minutes for two speakers that will analyze, will present other platforms for research. The first one, and for researchers. The first one is Dalibor Trilassa, that is Program Officer of EuroAccess Africa. Dalibor will be followed by Ms. Tombi Mchuba, that is Assistant Director at the DSI for ESA staff. So without any other hesitation, I will pass the floor to Dalibor. Dalibor, please go ahead.
Thanks, Piero. Good afternoon to everyone. I hope you are not too tired to listen to these two presentations that are left for today's agenda. So warm regards. My name is Dalibor, and as Piero said, I'm the program manager for Africa, appointed at the beginning of this year. So this is very recent initiative, and we hope that it is going to live in the years that are coming. Today, I have the honor to present to you the EURAXESS Worldwide initiative of European Commission that supports collaboration among the researchers. So what is exactly the EURAXESS Worldwide? EURAXESS Worldwide at the first instance is the part of the wider initiative called EURAXESS. Our task is to provide you with information on services, portals, and tools dedicated to researchers working outside of Europe, that wants to be connected with other European and other researchers who wants to join the forces in research and innovation collaboration. We provide the information on various career and funding opportunities. This is the main task that we have at our scope. More specifically, EURAXESS Worldwide provides you with a networking platform and possibilities and is a reliable source of information and ideas related to jobs, funding, and hosting opportunities in Europe. As such, we intend to link the talented researchers, in this case from Africa, with the European, helping them to further develop their careers and skills through successful and fruitful international cooperation. Basically, this international cooperation is mostly represented in the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. And important for all of you is that our services to researchers are completely free of charge. EURAXESS Worldwide's mission is to be the go-to place for highly skilled international researchers on the move to Europe, but also for the European researchers to be connected with researchers from other countries and continents. Our mission is to be your first choice of information, advice, and support, providing the first-hand and reliable information on European research and innovation directly from the source. Ambitious researchers and students see EURAXESS Worldwide as a one-stop shop, helping them to explore and develop their careers. Finally, we seek to be a reference point and unparalleled networking tool fit for the European Union's evolving toolbox of support measures and strengthen research careers. Our efforts are aimed at the deepening of the European research area and its contribution to a stronger, safer, greener, and more resilient and connected Europe. To make these missions possible, we have a team of 16 dedicated country or regional coordinators across the 9 worldwide hubs, with our central management located in Brussels. On this slide, you can see the distribution, the geographical distribution of the regional coordinators. And at the moment, as you can see, I'm the single person working for the EURAXESS Africa Hub. But I do hope that in Africa, we are going to have more than one office or representative, similar to some colleagues in other regions. As you can see, EURAXESS Worldwide has gone through a very long and successful way since 2013. And we had more than 46,000 researchers, 64,000 researchers and multipliers regularly consuming the informations we provide. Before the coronavirus pandemic, we did more than 440 events with a total of more than 55,000 participants. Our events usually are fully booked, and we hope that this is going to be the case in Africa too. More than 2 million visitors regularly are visiting our website and social media. This number is daily growing, having in mind the importance of the news that we are publishing. We are also issuing quarterly newsletter with plenty of information that can help advance your career as a researcher. More concretely, we are doing some things mostly on promotion. And the main point is on the promotion of European research area where we regularly update you with the research landscape descriptions in the European Union, and as well as with available opportunities to fund your research, because we understand that the funding is the key problem in research. We do promote the objectives, good practices, tools, and benefits of EUR-Access and the whole network of institutions and individuals connected in. We are inviting the distinguished speakers from different networks to our events, but we also use the local researchers to provide testimonies on collaboration with the European researchers, as this was the case with the speakers previous to me. Most important, we do facilitate the connections between researchers and research labs, because usually the main problem is to find the proper and adequate partner or research laboratory to perform your work. So EUR-Access can help you also in this respect. The tools that we are using to promote our mission and to fulfill our mission is mainly the different communication channels through which we are distributing the messages and the information. Our primary source is our dedicated website for each of the hubs, and we are using the most popular social media in our daily work, including the specific media for the regions, such as Weibo in Southeast Asia. Our regular activities include distribution of flash notes and the quarterly newsletters via email, as I already said. But the most important issue and the most important tool that we are using are our activities related to the organization of info days and workshops. We are organizing information sessions and practical workshops on different topics, such as advancing career research, collaboration opportunities, funding opportunities, etc. Among other, these are related also to the presentation and the practical workshops on how to prepare the Marie Skłodowska-Curie or European Research Council grant. This is very important for you to know. Usually we like to do it live, so together with you, so that you can ask the questions and clarify all the things. But recently, due to this corona pandemic virus, this become a problem, and we are doing this in the form of webinars like this today. We do hope that soon we will be able to be again live with you, and that these operations are going to be done in normal way. As I already said, this year is the year dedicated to the preparatory activities for the establishment of EUR-Access Africa Hub. So it means we are starting with these formalities. This is very exciting job, having in mind that this is going to be the biggest regional hub with more than 50 countries covering. At the moment, the website is functional. Email and social networks on Facebook and LinkedIn are already ongoing. So we are working online at the moment, not at the territory of the continent. The official launch of EUR-Access Africa Hub is expected at the beginning of 2022. And the conditions, if the conditions are favorable, we are going to have the office and we'll be in direct contact with the researchers. We will start offering trainings and info days on European research policies and funding opportunities. Our task now is to make the Africa Hub live and to increase the number of people knowing about this initiative on the African continent. Therefore, we are kindly asking you to invite your colleagues and your friends and to recommend us and to help us develop the network and the quality services for African researchers. You can visit our website already and find a lot of information, and you can interact on our social media channels. It is important in this task that we are all active and that we all are contributing to the same goal. So, but even for you personally is most important that you sign up for our quarterly newsletter and flash notes in order to stay up to date with the funding opportunities, with events and all other happenings that are related to the worldwide largest research funding program, which is Horizon Europe. If you want to know more about the EUR-Access initiative in Europe and to see country-specific conditions, please visit our central website, where you will find a lot of extremely useful information for the country that you are targeting, especially. You can find also other opportunities for funding, for hosting, and for networking. As Ms. Julie said in her presentation, here you will find the posts for the individual fellowships, interests, and also the posts for the doctoral networks positions, as well as the other information related to research in Europe. So with this, I would not like to take you more time. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us to present EUR-Access Africa to this very precious event. And I would like to thank for your attention to stay this long. And once again, to invite you to join EUR-Access Africa Hub and to help researchers develop their careers and create benefits for the whole world. So let's try to do it together. And thanks once again. I will stay at disposal for your questions. Thanks. Back to you, Piero.
Thanks a lot, Dalibor. I'm sure a big number of South African scientists, innovators, stakeholders will follow your kind invitation to sign up for EUR-Access Africa, our new platform. Now I pass to next speaker, Ms. Tombi Chuba. Tombi, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Piero. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Yes. My name is Ntombi Mchuba. I work for the Department of Science and Innovation, South Africa, for the Directorate Strategic Partnerships, which is a team that works with researchers and EU researchers. DSI created support instruments to promote the reciprocity of South Africa and Europe, to increase the awareness of South Africa into EU programs. By doing that, then the DSI came up with a website called ESSASTAP website. ESSASTAP means the European, South African and Technology Advancement Program, which was launched during the 6th EU Framework Program to promote, to facilitate and to coordinate research, development and innovation between South Africa and the EU in areas of common interest. ESSASTAP as well is a collaboration initiative between South Africa and the EU that was established during the interactions between South Africa and the EU during the JSTCC that Tugela and Vinny spoke about at length. The information that is shared regarding the collaboration between South Africa and EU is always advertised on the ESSASTAP website. I won't say much about that. The website speaks for itself. I will be able to share the links at the end of the presentation. As I've mentioned, that ESSASTAP started during the Framework 6 program, looking at the bilateral activities between South Africa and the EU, raising awareness of the EU programs where South Africans can participate in. The following one came up as well as ESSASTAP 2, which supported the 7th Framework Program. So that we had ACSS, which promoted the Framework Program, Access for EU, from 2010 to 2013. We as well as move up to have the ESSASTAP Plus, and up we have the ESSASTAP 2020, which promoted the H2020 program that has recently ended. We are now today launching the Horizon Europe, which is then now is supported by the ESSASTAP the ESSASTAP as well, which is going to support now from 2020 onwards. Now I will talk about the SI support instruments. On the ESSASTAP website, DSI creates awareness on and raising information on the collaboration between South Africa and the EU. Through the website, it's where we put the upcoming events, the upcoming calls, and respond to researchers who are looking for partners within the EU and EU researchers who are looking for partners in South Africa. We do that through advertising on the website, through information sessions that we arrange in the country. They come up in a smaller and a bigger scale. By smaller, we mean that we do go to an institution, maybe meet with the research office and a few researchers to really give support and to create awareness on the programs. On a bigger scale, then South Africa is divided into 9 provinces, excuse me. So what we do is that we go to a certain province and then we put together the institutions and give information thereafter. In case we are still under lockdown, we will always continue then to offer the workshops, to give material marketing, which is SSTAB. SSTAB supports the South African researchers. Even the event that we're holding today, the launch of Horizon 2020, it is happening because of the SSTAB program. Marketing materials, the marketing materials that is now online in forms of bulletins, in forms of pamphlets, in forms of links to the calls that are out already. They are on the SSTAB website. Advisory and technical support. The Department of Science and Innovation will soon appoint national contact points to be working on the Horizon Europe. The national contact points in South Africa are appointed from the National Systems of Innovation. They are appointed by the Director General of the department. They are specialists in their fields, meaning that in the fields that are already listed within the Horizon Europe program, we will have specific NCPs for each specific area. At the SSTAB Help Desk, we have the unit that we have just mentioned, the directorate that I've just mentioned, which is strategic partnerships. There are colleagues who are seated there to respond to the questions from the researchers, to give information on the upcoming opportunities and the calls that are there for the South African researchers to participate in. We've got a technical support office that is seated in Brussels. At the moment, we've got the senior science and technology representative by the name of Ms. Vinnie Pillay. The office is there then to support South African researchers. For instance, if there are opportunities within the EU, the office shares them with South Africa and shares them with the South African researchers. The Brussels office carries the mandate of the JSTCC, which is the South African Union Joint Science and Technology Cooperation Committee, which is headed by the Director General of Department of Science and Technology, South Africa, and the Director General Research and Innovation in the EU Commission. The office communicates the new and the upcoming activities, as I've mentioned, as discussed during the JSTCC, and so that the South African researchers are able to participate. We have support as well from the DSI line directorates. The specialists of various research areas are seated and they're available to advise in the participation of SA researchers in EU projects, linking their participation to the science and innovation national priorities. if South African researchers are interested to contact the specialist within the DSI, I then request them to go to the SSTAP website. They'll find the contacts to contact the team that works on SSTAP that will be able to connect them to the specialist within the department. Partner matching services. I think my colleagues before me, they've said quite a lot on partner matching services, but I just wanted to say to South African researchers, there is a good example today that we just had. Dr. Benedicta, Professor Nandu, and Professor Kio. They've met through these partner matching activities. I remember very well for Professor Nandu and Professor Benedicta, they met when the DSI went to the Walter Sisulu University. Though they had projects before, but they've managed now to bring in more researchers from outside South Africa and within South Africa. Again, South Africa, for South African researchers, we organize brokerage events where we invite researchers from the EU to come meet with researchers in South Africa, and researchers in South Africa as well are able to travel to the EU. That's where they've got an opportunity to meet partners and to have a partner matching as well. We've got a program that is a bottom-up approach, which is an EU program that the DSI participates actively in, which started in the 80s. It is EU funded and its focus is on multidisciplinary cooperation, promotes early stage research, and complements the framework program, now the Horizon Europe. As the researchers join the cost actions as members, the information is available on the SSTAP website. Each action holds 3 events in a year. These events, we've seen them useful for partner matching for South African researchers traveling to the EU to meet with partners or attending workshops. South African researchers, when they are members of the course actions, the SI then pays for their traveling and their stay in Europe 100%. We've seen this stay costing an amount maybe of 50,000. That is the financial support now that DSI gives to South African researchers to go meet with the partners within the EU. There's co-investment. Co-investment now is only given to those South African researchers who are already partners with researchers from the EU, and they are responding to a call that is between South Africa and the EU as well. The co-investment now is 90%. The institution in South Africa that applies for co-investment then will co-fund the 10%. The application takes 30 days. This is to cater for the signing of the finance contract between the institutions. I think that's all I have to say. There are important websites there that I'm sharing now with you, but one can only keep the SSTAP.org website, the last one there. All the information is in that website, and all the contact numbers for the colleagues who are seated at SSTAP desk are in that website. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Ntombi, for your comprehensive speech about SSTAP. I have to confess I didn't know it. I learned a lot of interesting things about this platform. Okay, I think with this relevant informations, we can pass to the last questions and the answer session that well, we'll have a main focus on EU-Access and ESA, but also other questions are very welcome. Well, obviously, I invite my co-moderator Vinny to intervene whenever she thinks it's appropriate. I will open this question and answer session with a question from my side. I see there are a lot of synergies about these two platforms, more than what I expected. And I'm just making a question to Dalibor and Ntombi. Well, this possible synergy would deserve a little bit more attention. Should we try to work together to see what we can do together and to work in a common path? I would be glad to have your view on this.
Okay, so thanks for the question, Piero. Of course, there is a possibility for the collaboration because EU-Access cannot work without the researchers, and EU-Access is the place where the researchers could find the answers that they are having related to the collaboration with European researchers. So this is some kind of natural connection to have the collaboration between these two platforms, because the ESA is the organization that is linked also to the government, which is supporting the researchers from the other side. So this is the possibility to combine the funding in order to achieve the objectives of their research. Not to mention also the scientific diaspora, which is very important element, and that we need also to take into consideration. EU-Access is also supporting the Science for Refugee, the initiative. So these are the elements that can be taken into consideration in order to strengthen these relations between the researchers from Africa and the European Union. And I'm inviting all researchers really to use these services because they're going to benefit from the networking tool, which is usually mentioned as a problem when the researchers from the countries, I'm not saying that for South Africa, because South Africa is very well visible abroad and in the European Union in the respect of research, but for other countries that have problems with the visibility of researchers, so they cannot find the proper partners in order to gain to enter into the consortia. And in Horizon Europe, the competition is really high, and it's going to be higher than in Horizon 2020. So we have to use all the efforts and all the resources that are available in order to achieve the objectives, and that is to improve the science on both of the sides. That's all.
Thanks. Ntombi, do you have some comment from your side?
Thank you, Piero. I just want to make a comment. We've seen ESA a program really working for the South African researchers and the African researchers as well. The NCPs from South Africa are usually invited to go into Africa, to other countries in Africa, whereby then we invite our partners from the EU as NCPs to come and share information, to create awareness on how other African partners, other African countries can participate into European programs or European opportunities. It helps. South African researchers are really very active when it comes to searching on our website, when it comes to inquiring information. They are aware that there is a link within the website where they can be able to find partners. Thank you.
May I just add there, Piero, to your question? I mean, yes, there are synergies, and I think what Ntombi is also alluding to is that ESA has, in a presentation, it's had a long history, and it's developed a very specific brand between the South African research community and the European research community. And maybe the point I also want to raise is right at the beginning, it also had its evolution with some support from the framework program. It's no longer funded under the framework program. It's funded entirely at the moment by the South African government, by the Department of Science and Innovation. But it's played a key role in making the South African research community visible and also being able to engage with the activities, research calls, etc., that come under the framework program. And I think also it serves as an information, not just an informational portal about research calls, but also around information sessions that colleagues have, as Ntombi said, has gone out in the country. So I don't see it being combined to another network. Yes, there are synergies, we can work together, but ISASTAP is quite a key platform for the South African research community, and we would continue to support it in that way. But of course, we will seek to have synergies with EURAXIS. We can share information across the platforms, etc. But it needs to maintain its identity. And also, it is identifiable with other countries in Africa as well. Thank you.
No, thanks for your clarification. No, I didn't want to say that ISASTAP has to change name. Obviously, he has to keep its identity. But well, I see no doubts about this, but I see a lot of potential synergies, also contacts between officers working on ISASTAP and EURAXIS to define together better strategies to work together. No doubts that the two entities has to keep two separate names. I didn't want to say this. Okay, thanks. Well, I don't see any specific question on the last session. So I would like to ask also to the previous speakers. I see some of them are still connected. If they want to intervene, want to add something to their presentation. I see Jens, Julie, Caroline, and Tugela, Nikki, and Professor Keo. Please, someone want to talk? Very welcome to raise your hand.
No, I don't want to raise any particular point. I just want to say again, thank you very much for having organized this event. It was a very useful, very good event. And following the questions, I think we have learned on both sides. That's good. And also wishing good luck to all participants, upcoming participants from South Africa that would hopefully then participate in our framework program and all other related activities that are ongoing and will probably start in the future. So thank you very much, and yeah, good luck.
Thanks, Jens. Tugela, you want to mention? Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. From my side, I just wanted to thank everyone who stayed with us from the morning until now. And also to mention that we have noted the comments and the suggestions in the chat, them going forward. And if anyone needs to get so they can also write to us, we will try and assist.
Thanks a lot, Tugela, for your words and clarification. I see Professor Keo, you want to add something?
Yes, I can just say, I just want to add one on what the rest of the speakers just said, to thank everyone. And we're really looking forward and looking to this more collaboration. We want to thank everyone who attended. And you are going to see lots and lots of application on your way coming. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. This is obviously also our hope, and I am sure that this will be a dream come true. I don't know if Nikki, Julie, if nobody want to add anything, I will pass the floor. Who is Nikki? Nikki,
No,
please. Oh, Julie, sorry.
no, it's
Julie.
fine. No, maybe just to add something very quickly. First of all, of course, a huge thank you to the organizers and but also to the attendees. I shared the link to our info day, as I said before. So if you want to have more information about the MSCA, each of the actions are detailed there. But of course, we are also available and very happy to further inform. And I just would like to mention maybe as well that we rely also on a huge global network through the Marie Curie Alumni Association, which can be also a very good help for potential applicants or for information or training. So in the presentation I made this morning, there is a link also to the MCAA. So it's just an additional link I wanted to raise. But that's it on my side. And thanks a lot again to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I think Professor Nikki.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thanks for one last word, and thank you very much to everybody for this opportunity, and particularly to the DSI here in South Africa for providing the opportunities and excellent support for us when we do manage to have successful applications. It's a great department, and they're certainly doing their best to provide the support to the academic research, which we really appreciate. So thank you very much to DSI, and thank you very much to the European Union as well.
Thanks to you. Well, if I don't see any other speaker raise his hand, so well, before passing the floor to Vinny for her conclusive remarks, I would like just to thank all of you for this participation. I think it has been amazing. I learned a lot, and I'm sure all the attendees learn also many things from this experience. I would like to thank really a lot, because they did a great job, a fantastic job, my colleagues of the DSI, and well, very much I would like to thank Vinny and all the colleagues. I'm sure now I'm forgetting someone, Carabo, well, to Gela, obviously. And also, I would like to thank my colleagues of the European Commission for their very interesting and warm participation. Let's say I thank you all. I pass the floor to Vinny. And obviously, thanks a lot to my co-moderator, Vinny, for her fantastic job. As always, we know each other for many years, and I'm always impressed by the quality of Vinny's job.
You on mute, Piero.
Yeah, because I'm talking too much. I give the floor to you.
I see Prof. Nke Chuang has got a hand raised. Prof, do you want to add anything before we close?
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to have been invited to this platform to learn about all the opportunities that are available to us as researchers in South Africa and in Africa, and the possibilities for collaboration. And I really want to use this opportunity as well to thank the DSI for all the support that we have received to date. And I am really grateful to my babysitters, our babysitters, who are in the DSI. I can't forget Toton, Tombi, Karabo, and all of them. I just want to thank you so much, because you have assisted us to get into research spaces that without this platform, we would not have been able to get to. And our horizons have been broadened through collaboration, especially with NANDU. And now we have partners in Belgium, in Norway, and even in Slovenia. Our horizons have just been broadened. And in Nigeria, in Kenya, it has just been through this initiative by the DSI and the European Union. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before we lose our audience, because I see people are probably heading to lunch. I'm not going to repeat everything, echo the words of my co-chair, also to thank him and thank all the presenters, all the teams from the EU delegation, from DG Research, from the DSI, without mentioning everyone's names. Thank you all. I think the critical thing is now for our research community to go ahead, to look at the calls, to start applying, to make contacts with their counterparts in Europe, and actually make South African participation in Horizon Europe as successful, if not more successful, than what we have been in Horizon 2020. So we look forward to looking at the statistics as the years progress in terms of our work. And yeah, to just say, be safe wherever you are. We've had issues of floods, etc. On the Belgian side, on the South African side, we've had some issues as well. So, and including COVID globally. So please take care, and we'll see you soon, hopefully in the real world, where ESASTEP will continue to provide information sessions as Horizon Europe progresses, and as well as on other instruments and possible partnerships that we do have. So with those few words, I thank again my co-chair, Piru, thank you so much, and everyone else. Take care and goodbye from us. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.